You have before you a copy of the written agenda, and I have one recommended change for you, and this is actually due to an oversight on my part. Dr. Diane Wall is here with the Humane Society Board tonight, and she had asked me a couple of weeks ago to have the flyer, which appears annually. It's the same flyer that's appeared for many, many years, and inserts in electric bills that goes out as a public service announcement informing our residents of the animal control ordinance. She would like this to go out as it usually does in September to coincide with the start of the school year, and she has to have it printed. And she can't stay on that schedule if we don't get approved tonight. So I would recommend that go on the agenda under mayor's business on the consent agenda. Is there any objection to that? Any objection? Any objection? Seeing none, please note the change to your agenda. Any further proposed revisions to the agenda? Alderman Maynard.
I'd like to add under public appearances, B, a public appearance by the Vice President for Student Affairs, Bill Broyles, Mississippi Student Association, Brett Harris, to discuss their 2% budget for fiscal 2015.
All right, proposed revision from Alderman Maynard is to place an item B under Roman numeral 7, public appearances. That would be a public appearance by Dr. Bill Broyles and Mr. Brett Harris on behalf of the Student Association, presenting their proposed budget for 2% funds for academic year 2014-2015. Alderman Maynard, is that your proposed revision?
Yes, it is.
Do I hear any objection? Any objection? Any objection? All right, seeing none, Alderman Maynard, do you have further proposed
I
revision?
do. Under board business, add item G. And that item will be consideration of the 2% budget of the Mississippi State University Student Association for fiscal year 2015.
All right, Alderman Maynard has proposed, recommended changing the agenda to add an item G under Roman numeral 10, board business. It would be consideration of the recommended 2% budget for the Student Association for fiscal year 2015. Alderman Maynard, is that your proposed revision?
It is.
Do I hear any objection? Any objection? Any objection? Any objection? Seeing none, that matter's been added to the agenda. Alderman Maynard, do you have further proposed revisions?
I do not.
Any further proposed revisions? Any? Alderman Vaughn.
I think Alderman Maynard want to say something on this one. Under sanitation department. I want to move it to consent. I think Alderman Maynard want to address something on that.
Mr. Mayor, I recognize before he moved it to consent, if the gentleman from 7 does not mind, I want to make a friendly amendment to that, that to advertise for bids for 1.5 meals of garbage bags. In other words, the motion is not clear what kind of bags, and I think it's the agreement, I would think at the table, we don't want any more 1.0 meal garbage bags. So we can put 1.5 meals garbage bags and then put it on consent if the gentleman from 7 would accept
Alderman
that.
Vaughn, is that your proposed recommendation?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor.
Proposed recommendation from Alderman Vaughn is to add item 11L1 to the consent agenda with the following change. It would be placing the approval to advertise for bids for garbage bags for the 2015 distribution, specifying that those are 1.5 mil garbage bags, adding that to the consent agenda. Alderman Vaughn, is that your proposed revision?
Yes, it is.
Do I hear any objection? Any objection?
Is that what we had before, 1.5, or was it 1?
Yes, sir, gentleman from 1. May I recognize, Mayor?
You may.
Gentlemen, that's what we had, and Ms. Gandy, correct me if I'm wrong, that we had that prior to the last distribution. The last distribution was 1.0 mils, so the 1.5 is the good quality, the sturdy bags. Is that correct, Ms. Gandy?
That's correct.
Thank you.
Any objection? Any objection? Any objection? Any objection? Seeing none, please note the change to your agenda. Alderman Vaughn, do you have further proposed revisions? Alderman Perkins.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to remove from consent the first 2 items under planning, A and B, to be placed on the regular agenda.
All right, items A and B under Roman numeral 11 have been, or Roman numeral 11B, A and B. No, that's not right. All right, items 11B, 2, A and B have been removed from the consent agenda. Those items are as follows. A request for approval of a special events permit for the Mississippi State Student Association for in-kind services for 2014 Bulldog Bash, and request for approval of a special events permit for the Sturgis Motorcycle Rally. Those have been removed from the consent agenda. Alderman Perkins, do you have further proposed revisions?
No, sir, Mr. Mayor, thank you.
Any further proposed revisions from the members of the board?
Mr. Mayor, may I be recognized?
You may.
Looking at section 11A, the airport section, I have two proposed revisions, should there be a motion by a board member. Item number 2 is redundant. It's just a summary of items 1, 3, and 4, so I would recommend item 2 be stricken from the agenda. And as to item number 4, the terms of that contract have not yet been fully negotiated, so I would advise striking number 4 from the agenda as well. And I've talked to Mr. Rodney Lincoln on the way in, and he's agreeable to those changes.
Is there a board member that wishes to propose that
So
revision?
moved, Mr. Mayor.
All right, proposed revision has been made by Alderman Carver to strike items 11A2 and 11A4. Alderman Carver, is that your proposed revision?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear any objection? Any objection, any objection, any objection? Seeing none, please note the change to your agenda. Any further proposed revisions to the agenda as written?
Is there anybody, I just got a comment, is anybody from the airport board here? I don't know if Rodney's here. You want to speak on that? That's a pretty big grant. I know we spoke about it the other day, but you have any reason to highlight that?
What's been removed is not the grant, it's just the engineering contract.
Okay. But what I was talking about was item A1.
That is removed.
I know. I just didn't know if you want to, well, I'll tell you what I'm trying to say is there's been some pretty big grant acceptances lately by the airport board, and I know y'all been working on a couple of things, and that's just one more. Being the airport board liaison, often I like to highlight y'all doing the good work you do and chasing after those grants and securing some of them, so good job. Thank you.
Any further proposed revisions? Any further proposed revisions to the agenda as written? Any further proposed revisions? Any further proposed revisions? Seeing none, a motion to approve the agenda as revised is in order.
So moved.
Motion has been made by Alderman Vaughn to approve the agenda as revised. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Nguyen. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Measure clearly passes. You now have before you the approval of the consent agenda. Is there any objection to the approval of the consent agenda as revised? Any objection? Any objection? Any objection? Seeing none, the consent agenda as revised has been approved. That will take us to announcements by the mayor and board, and I have one tonight, and that is to introduce our newest city employee, Ashley Wigglesworth. It is my pleasure to welcome Ashley Wigglesworth as our new accounts payable clerk in the city clerk's office. She is originally from Brandon, Mississippi, and is a graduate of Brandon High School. She is a graduate of Hines Community College with 2 Associates of Science degrees in Hotel and Restaurant Management and Travel and Tourism. Prior to joining the city of Starkville, Ashley was the hotel front office supervisor at the Holiday Inn Express and the assistant store manager for Sonny's Real Pit Barbecue. Ashley is the daughter of Eugene and Flory Wigglesworth. She has one sister, Stacy. During her spare time, Ashley enjoys culinary arts, painting, construction projects, classical music, swimming, and traveling. She also enjoys spending time with her Black Lab Greyhound mixed dog, Molly. Ashley attends Starkville Church of God. Please join me in welcoming Ashley Wigglesworth. At this time, I have no further announcements. Are there any announcements by the members of the board? Alderman Nguyen.
Good evening, everyone. First of all, Mr. Mayor, we want to say happy birthday to you. Little birthday. And he's the big 3-4, and he thinks he's really old. Just wait. Next, is there Mr. R.W. Penn in the room present? Mr. R.W. Penn. Is he back there?
He's in the back, yeah.
Mr. Penn, will you please stand? Good evening to you, first of all. Everyone, Penn's Catfish will be coming here to our town at the end of this month. They're gonna be located on the Avenue of Patriots. And Mr. Penn, let me say this, our CAO and a couple of aldermen said that they are getting off their diets at that time. So, welcome you to our city. Thank you so much. Is there any? I yield the floor this time.
Do we have any further announcements by the members of the board?
I have one, Mr.
Alderman
Mayor. We hear a lot of criticisms, and I wanted to take this opportunity to read an email I got for some praise for Miss Emma Gandy. Miss Gandy, will you stand up back there? I got an email this week from a lady that said, I know you get a lot of complaints, so I wanted to tell you about what an asset Emma Gandy is. I called her to see about getting an 88-year-old lady's garbage picked up at her door instead of on the street, which is up a steep driveway. Miss Gandy could not have been more pleasant, efficient, or helpful. It's not often that anything like this can be accomplished in one phone call, but today it did, so thank you. So thank you, Miss Gandy, we appreciate it. That's all.
Any further announcements here? Alderman
Just a couple
Little.
of quick ones. First, I want to say thank you to Joel, where's Joel at? For facilitating the conference call at the last meeting 3 weeks ago while I was out of town. I appreciate you making that happen. Thank you for that. And Mr. Kemp, city engineer, I'd like to say thank you for the last, I may go 2 weeks and don't talk to you, and I may talk to you 4 or 5 times in one day, but I want to thank you for your responsiveness. I've had several issues in the ward, be it drainage, street signs missing, potholes, and being able to drop what you do and meet me out there and look at some things and what can we do to help fix it. And just want to say thank you again to you and your department for being so responsive. Thank you. You have the floor.
Further announcements and comments from the members of the board? Any further announcements or comments from the members of the board? Seeing none, we'll move to citizen comments. At this time, any citizen wishing to make comments may do so by coming forward, introducing yourself, and you will be recognized to speak for a maximum of 3 minutes.
Good evening to the mayor and board of aldermen. My name is Alvin Turner, Ward 7. Citizen concern. The housing authority, we have a few scales of pit and rock riders running loose in the housing authority. We have children in the housing authority, and the danger dog ordinance that was passed. We need to let them kind of check on that, whoever is letting those dogs run loose. In the housing authority, we have a lot of children. We have a situation about a month ago. The light at Valves and the light at CBS, we don't know if they have turn signals both ways or not. But I had an accident where a motorcycle and a vehicle hit head on. We seen them go up in the air. But could they check those lights to make sure that they have turning signals?
Thank you, Mr. Turner. Further citizen comments? Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor, members of the board, my name is Ben Wilson. I reside at 110 Mill Street, Ward 4. I came before you tonight with a complaint about the dust on the Cotton Mill project. The dust and the debris being the road, the mud, and it just really, getting unbearable. And I think, they could do a little better job of cleaning the street if they would. And I just want to address you, Mr. Mayor, and see that you have something done about that.
Yes, sir. We will communicate with both projects and their contractors and make sure they get it cleaned up.
Appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson. Mr. Sanders, did you send somebody out to take a look at that and communicate already with the contractors?
I know an inspection has been made, communication is followed up.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Further Further citizen comment?
I'm Michelle Amos, I'm in Ward 3. I'm a homeowner and a business owner, and I want to ask you to please consider supporting the economic development request for the bond, to issue the bonds. I believe this is an important step for the future of Starkville and Octavia County, and I'm behind it 100%. I ask for your support. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Amos.
Good afternoon, good evening, Mayor and Board. My name is Christian Taylor, Ward 7, and I would like for the whole board to reconsider giving the employees of this city a pay raise. These people work hard every day, rain, sleet, hail, or snow. You got the water department and the garbage people out there picking up trash and fixing our sewage and drainage. So I really think they deserve a raise, everyone in this city. We instead of giving out everybody else money, so if you borrow now, go ahead and increase it. I'm a homeowner and own about 4 or 5 cars, so I'm mine.
Thank
Mr.
you,
Mayor,
Mr.
may I
Taylor.
be recognized?
You may.
Mr. Taylor, thank you so much for that comment.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Further citizen comments?
Good evening, I'm Lynn Sproul, Ward 3. I can say how you can pay for those city raises for everybody. Don't spend that additional $1.5 million on that police building. I have expressed in a number of times that I'm not in favor of it, and it has nothing to do with anything against the police. In fact, I think what we ought to do is follow Chief Nichols' plan, which is hire more police officers, pay them better, equip them better, and you can take that additional money that you're going to consider spending on a building sitting on Main Street that can remain on the public rolls, you can give that to the city employees for a raise. So I think things that haven't been taken into consideration based on the sheet that was in the packet are operating expenses. And that's the reason the Park Commission has difficulties, because when they said that they could pay for their bonds, they didn't take into account the cost of the sportsplex and what it takes to run it. Janitorial, electric, insurance, additional staffing. Those things are all going to happen at that police station with that additional 39,000 square feet that would be going off the city rolls, and you're going to have to pay for landscaping on Main Street. It's important. You're going to have to keep it up. Can't do what we've done here at City Hall. I just would like you to do some serious due diligence on annual operating costs, because when you add that to the police budget, I think you're going to have some difficulty making those annual adjustments to your budget. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sproul. Further citizen comments?
Good evening, Mayor and Board. I am Cynthia Wilson, the administrative assistant for the mayor and the board, so I have 8 bosses here, but today we want to recognize Mayor Wiseman on his birthday.
Oh.
On behalf of my 2 daughters, Taylor and Takira, they want you to wear this tonight at the board meeting. But they want me to take a picture with you wearing it, so if you would please wear this.
Thank you so much.
All right.
That's the nicest thing.
And on behalf of the fire department, they went out of their way to go get this from Piggly Wiggly. However, they forgot your happy birthday sign. So on behalf of the fire department, happy birthday.
That's all right. I am envisioning it right now. Thank y'all so much.
On behalf of me, the City Hall employees, department heads, and Board of Aldermen, we would just like to honor you with a card today that simply says happy birthday. We hope this puts a smile on your face. It's a small token, but you know, we hope you appreciate it. All right.
Thank you.
And if you will allow me to do one more thing, I want to ask everybody here, including the Board of Aldermen, if we can sing happy birthday to the mayor. On the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Mayor Wiseman. Happy birthday to you. Now, if you'll give me a second, I'd like to take a picture with that for my daughters.
Yeah. Well, now I'm thoroughly embarrassed. Thank you.
Can you stand and just put
Yes, yes. You tell me how you want it. Here, I'll get all my loot.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Further citizen comment?
That's a hard act to follow. Sandra's this drunk, I'm not gonna get comfortable and stay here forever, but I'm gonna add, my
comments to those that Ms. Sproul has made and that I've heard out in the community, asking y'all to think seriously about the Cadence Building as an acquisition for the police department. It was a little discouraging hearing that there wasn't gonna be room in the budget this year for pay raises for employees, considering that this is a revaluation year, that you'll have an extra $150,000 or so in ad valorem taxes because of revaluation, considering that I've been reading about increased sales taxes, record levels in some months. So it was a little depressing to hear about that. Knowing that y'all are looking at the Cadence Building, knowing the operational costs that are gonna come with that, knowing that you're looking at the link bonds, and the $600,000 a year, of debt service that will come with those. And all of these things are good and important, but again, you've gotta juggle those priorities. The link bonds deal with one half of the consultant's reports, where he talked about a research part. It doesn't address the other part, which is also going to be critical to recruiting industry here, and that's quality of life. He said that we need to invest in quality of life here in Starkville too. So do what you think is best for the city. Pass the link bonds if that's best. Consider, if you're going to be borrowing money, consider go ahead and do some additional things and spend some money that we, the citizens of Starkville, will see some immediate impact from. The link bonds are a long-term investment, but we will not see much from those during your term and in the foreseeable future. Even if there's a project ready to go when y'all vote, it will just the nature of that sort of thing, it's gonna take years to start to see any payback. So, y'all have hard decisions to make. You don't have a lot of money, you already carry a lot of debt, y'all are looking at adding to that, so good luck, Godspeed.
Thank you, Alderman Sistrunk. Further citizen comments?
My name is Richard Hilton. I'm wearing two hats tonight. One is chairman of the partnership, and you'll be hearing later from Joe Higgins about the industrial park. Partnership is certainly behind that project for economic development, improving quality of life to come as a result of that. I disagree with Ms. Sistrunk about her observation of what will be a return on that visionary outlook for long-term growth here in Starkville. Ad valorem taxes coming immediately back to the school district will be immediate, which will be a big help. The project will be a stepping stone later on for the Cornerstone project as it's able to get power later on down the road. What I want to talk about outside of my hat as the partnership chairman is to talk about it as a parent of children, a parent of grandchildren who don't get to make it through high school or make it through a four-year degree. This project will be a tremendous benefit for those people who are between the GED, high school diploma, and a four-year degree for blue-collar jobs, which is desperately needed in Ottawa County. There's a lot of parents and grandparents who are working 2 and 3 jobs just to get their kids through school. Some of those kids may not have an opportunity to go on further. This project will be a tremendous opportunity, to make that happen. We have, a partnership, with the link, with Joe Max and Joey. Let's give these guys, an asset that will be a jumping stone to go forward and help us to bring, jobs, that will bring sales tax return. Later on, we'll bring ad valorem taxes back to the city. That will be a tremendous benefit. We do have a hard decision to make, and let's take advantage of the resource that we have before us to be visionary and going forward in the future. The long-term benefits is there, and I think it'll be a tremendous thing for this as a result of the city of Starkville.
Thank you, Mr. Hilton.
Mr. Mayor, Board of Alderman, I'm Tommy Tomlinson, a resident of Ward 3 and a proud member of this community. I want to echo what Richard just got through saying about the bond issue on the 330 acres to be purchased, and would hope that it would encourage you to look seriously at this, which I know each one of you will. We have so many assets in this community that we're all proud of, and there's no other community in any stretch of the region that you can come up with that can possibly compare to the quality of life that we all enjoy. However, just as Richard had mentioned, one area that we tremendously need to work on is our unemployment rate in this county. The only thing through my years of being an adult that's ever hit me any harder was several years ago with the quality of life that we all have. I saw the figures on the unemployment rate for Octavia County. It will set you back, and I see this project that will give immediate relief to that as a way of giving people of our county the opportunity to have quality jobs. So I hope you'll consider it. Happy birthday, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Tomlinson. Further citizen comment?
Morning, Mr. Mayor and Board. My name's Bill Daniel. I'm a resident of Ward 3. And before I make my remarks, I just want to remind you, Mr. Mayor, that pictures like the one that was taken before, once they get on the internet, then at any rate, I too am here in support of the bond issue that's going to be brought before the board this evening. After I retired, I had lived in Jackson for about 30 years, and after I retired, my wife and I made a deliberate decision to move and spend our waning years in Starkville for any number of reasons. But since I've been here, that's about 5 years ago. And since I've been here, I've somehow got associated with the Convention and Visitors Bureau. I've been president of that board for the last 2 years, and over this period of time, I have had an opportunity to become more aware and involved in the economic development prospects here in Starkville and Octavia County. One of the things that strikes me about this particular bond issue and the part that it will support is that it's not going to be a silver bullet. It's not going to cure our economic development woes here in the city. However, I think it's an integral part of what needs to be done. When you couple that with the community that's going to be built for workforce training, a couple of years down the road when Cornerstone becomes a viable industrial park for a different kind of industry. All of these things together paint a pretty good picture for anybody that's looking to relocate or build a business here in this area. I don't have any other comments to make about that, except that while I've been here, I felt like I was sitting on top of a bubble. That Starkville was just about to burst and go forward. I think this is going to maybe be a pinprick that takes us down the road in a positive way, and I hope you'll seriously consider passing this bond issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Daniel. Further citizen comment?
Mayor, Board of Alderman, I'm Jay Yates. I live in Ward 1 of the Veranda Restaurant here in Starkville. And I'd just like to second the motion of the guys that have come before me that said that this is a great idea. This is something that we need to do. I've been here since 1997. I consider myself a Starkvillian at this point. And, you know, love the growth, love the opportunity to have my business here, start my family here, and to be here and see the way things have gone and the way things have changed as we've gone forward. I do believe this project is something that we need to do at this point and really start to kind of take advantage of some of the opportunities that we have, some of the strengths we can play to. We have to have product to get out there for the link to sell. Some of y'all know I'm on the Link Trust Board, and I'm in those meetings with the guys, and they do a great job. I think we got to give them something to work with. And there's folks out there that looked long and hard. I'm sure you all know look at Octavia County and the Golden Triangle in general as we need to get our stuff together so we can go in there and actually compete with some of these other regions and grow. So I just want to second the motion and say that I'm totally in favor of that, and so that's what I got. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Yates. Further citizen comments?
Mayor, Board of Alderman, Steve Langston, I live in Ward 3. Y'all probably heard me talk on this before. What we're after here is jobs and tax-based growth in this city and this county. Without tax-based growth, especially when you talk about industry, you put a $20 million industry out there, or a $50 million, or a couple of 30s, or whatever. You stop and think how many homes have to be built to come up with that same property tax. These businesses would, as soon as they hit the operating rolls, their net worth would, their capital expenditure would hit the tax rolls, and they would not be exempt from any school taxes. So that would be an immediate benefit for us. And then, of course, a few short years down the road, as any business would look at an investment, then they would be on the rolls with full property tax, and that's something that you can't re-exempt the second time. So I'd just like for you to consider that if we ever want to get a handle on our individual property taxes, maintaining them and keeping them low, industrial development is absolutely the way to go. And we've all agreed that with the success that this group has had, and we contracted with them in this city and the county to help us do some of the things that they have a proven track record of doing in other counties. So this is what, and this is what has come forward, that we need to get that done. So I would just ask you to look at it long and hard, because this will be a historical moment for us to be able to step out and do something like that for the future of this town and county, as far as jobs, opportunities for all sorts of individuals, and for tax-based growth, which will help everything that we do, CD, Parks and Rec, whatever. So I would ask you to please consider that this is a real opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Langston. Further citizen comments? Do we have any further citizen comments? Any further citizen comments? Any further citizen comments? Seeing none, we'll move to public appearances. And we have two public appearances scheduled tonight. The first is the quarterly report from the Parks Commission, and it will be made by Parks Commission Chair Dan Moreland and Parks Director Herman Peters. Gentlemen.
While this computer is warming up here, I'd just like to say we've got a lot to cover. So, and you have in front of you all of the programs that we have, the stuff that we provide for the parks, children and the people around. So we're not gonna go into that unless you have some questions on it. I would like to add to what they were saying about the growth. Mississippi State University, I think, has set a record this year of growth. That spills over to the parks, and then the parks, that spills over to usage, and usage becomes electrical bills, utility bills. Now, we found some mistakes in our utility bills where we would charge 1 million gallons of water 1 month. And we would be down to probably around Mobile if we had spent if we had used 1 million gallons, we'd have floated down the river. So anyway, the bill, utilities this month for the parks was $41,000. We get a total of $78,000 to run the entire thing. When we take out the payroll, which most of it goes to Herman here, but anyway, we've got a good many people, and our payroll, and the last administration cut us $8,000 a month, which put us in a hole, and we're digging out of the hole now. We started off with $88,000 in the red on the electrical bill, and we got it down to $70,000 this year. And we started with 188, and I said, and it's down to 70. So we're making progress on that. The July and August light bills will be in the excess of $40,000 each. So that gives us very little to do anything with. That brings me up to my next point. The road going in and out down there, especially since we had all the buses and everything, it's increasing heavy traffic down there. It is in bad shape, and we got 3 bids on it, but we do not have the money to fix it under no circumstances. We don't have any we can even help fix it. Herman, show them some of the parts. This is the loop now going around the road to the sports place.
This is the entrance to the sports place when you first turn in off of Lynn Lane. The curve, the first curve you get to, you see a bigger picture on the next slide. All the way around by the soccer field. This is the bus path going up the right side. As the buses are traveling, it's beginning to get a little worse. This is a curve where the bus stop when there's someone there to pick them up. Coming back on the left side of the bus path. Coming out of the curve for the bus path, this is where they stop in that final curve coming out of that path. Okay. And
What was your low
You can
bid?
imagine what that'll look like
It's on
after
here.
a cold winter.
The sheet it's in the packet, the bid. Mississippi Paving and Construction Company all the way around. They gave one.
When he says all the way around, he's talking about going in and digging out the holes, surfacing them over, then overlaying the whole thing.
Yeah, they have the bid before you, going into 6-inch depth of $185,443.50. The next was Faplin Construction. They was going to a 4-inch depth. Of course, you see the last one from APAC. APAC bid was $354,965. And then also in there's bids for just spot checking and packing. It's in there too.
I'd like to ask, city engineer, have you seen these bids at all, any of these, or these three?
Director Peters dropping by, along today. I had a chance to just briefly go through, and have been involved as much, but I've also been out the sites.
With the buses going through there like they are, what would you recommend, or as far as, one's 4-inch, one's 6-inch base?
I think.
What kind of reinforcement?
It would be, honestly, it would be a hard call to make right here on the spot. I
Yeah.
think, without knowing exactly what's there, I think it'd be difficult to say what's needed, as far as the full pavement thickness, whether it's 4 inches, 6 inches, or 13 inches. Just based on, because I think it depends on also what's below that existing, ground.
I wasn't trying to put you on the spot, but I think it'd be a good idea, since you are a city resource, if you could work with the parks and maybe look at these bids and see if they need to be resubmitted with some minimum design specs that would support
Well,
the bus route or something to that.
And it should be clarified, those aren't bids, those are quotes.
Quotes, that's right.
If you were to do this project, you'd have to go through a sealed bidding project. And I've had extensive conversations with Edward about this over the last several months, as it's become clear that there's significant wear and tear, particularly with the buses running. I think the best solution for now, this would require board approval, is for us to go in and do some significant repair and maintenance, which we can do on current resources. Since all of the board's capital improvement funds are obligated for this year, really, we're not in a position, even if we went back and went through a bidding process, to make a capital expenditure in this fiscal year of that nature. And getting through the winter with repair and maintenance, which Edward thinks is possible to do, provides another advantage in that we expect the legislature to take up the reauthorization of our 2% funding this year. When that happens, it creates the possibility of additional parks funds, because right now, Parks has approximately $300,000 in a reserve account That's there as a firewall in case the legislature does not reapprove our 2% funds. Once that's reapproved, and we know through the life of the debt on the sportsplex that the debt can be serviced, then the parks will have more capital at their disposal. And of course, you'll have a new capital improvement budget for fiscal year 2015. So I think at this point in time, probably the most prudent thing to do is order engineering and streets to go forward with aggressive repair and maintenance, and also order the geotechnical study, which would get you a professional opinion as to which approach for the overall resurfacing would be best. Because really you have two different approaches in those quotes, and that's why there's such a variance in pricing. Now, I'm not an engineer, so I don't know what that means, but Edward tells me the best way to get a clear grasp on what you do need is to have a geotechnical study done. And then that would put us in position in spring to work in conjunction with parks on a funding strategy, and also to know what we were going out for bids for. So that's my recommendation.
You can imagine what this is gonna look like after winter when it freezes and it bubbles up. It'll take a four-wheel drive to get around down
Mr. Mayor, may I
And I guess
recognize?
that's my.
Hold on, Alderman Carver first.
Okay, I guess this is a pretty new parking lot, right? This is 10 years old, 2005, 2004?
It's in the sheet, it said that it was, when it was built in 2007, but here in 2009, it said, new site paving.
So, I mean, in your
there.
opinion,
That's
and
not
I,
on the loop around there, that's in front of the building, you know.
Actual sports.
in your opinion, so most of this damage,
Everybody's been there longer than that. This is, what Herman just read was on the, after when we built the sports section itself. The entire thing has been down there for 20 years.
so I was gonna say, this is pretty considerable damage been done since the smart buses have
Right,
started running. So
very.
in my opinion, and it might not be board majority, is that if the damage is being caused by smart buses, I know it may not be popular opinion, but to stop the pickup there, there's two other pickups. There's three pickups within a half a mile of each other, correct? And I know this is a center part of the city, and this is part of that original plan, but we said we could tweak it any way we wanted to. If this is causing damage after the winter, this is gonna be, in my opinion, and we'll come back and talk about it in February, and I'll show you, it's gonna be twice as bad as this. It's getting worse every day, and now that the damage has started, maybe the engineer can help us, that once that damage has started, it's gonna actually compound and get worse quicker, right?
More expensive.
So my opinion is, what's that?
You definitely need to go ahead and make the repairs if it fails.
Yeah, and why make the repairs if it's gonna just happen again? I mean, that road obviously wasn't rated for that kind of weight, and I mean, if it comes to a vote, I'd definitely vote for taking that stop out. We can find another place in town that can be a general parking lot that can work. If there wasn't another one anywhere on Lynn Lane, I would probably be in support of. If there's two more that can pick up the residential citizens right there, but, you know, I've been through there, I haven't seen that many people picked up from there, to be honest. I don't see this getting any better, just because you patch some holes and.
Well, now, we had Randy Loper with paving deal. He come in 2 years ago, Scott, three, and patched, dug out and patched, and that is held up good. I mean, we're not having any trouble with that, but everywhere else it is. So the patching is gonna have to be done regardless of where you overlay it at that time or afterwards. But
Now, what you're saying is where he patched, those sections are holding the buses just fine?
they're holding up.
Well, that's what we need to get a quote on, is those sections, to do that same process with this, if it's working.
But Mississippi Paving's proposal here on just patching is not a lot more, just to overlay the whole thing. Patch it and overlay.
Right.
So that's something that needs to be looked at, because it's gonna continue to eat out.
And this is my question for the mayors, and I know you're part of this, and this is one of your projects, is why are we so in favor of this location? If this is something that's happening, it's gonna get worse, I mean, is this not something we can sacrifice one location to improve our parks?
It's a central nexus point for the entire system. First of all, it's important to how it functions from a transportation standpoint, because that's a turnaround point, and it's the most convenient turnaround point. But just as importantly, the lion's share of that service is funded through a federal grant, and one of the critical objectives of the federal grant program is connectivity to parks. So this satisfies that objective in the program. And changing a route is not as easy as just changing a route since it is federally funded, because all of the routes have been approved with the grant application. So it's definitely something that the Transit Committee needs to study. Mr. Kemp is a member of that Transit Committee. I've asked him at the next meeting to discuss all possible alternatives to doing this in the future. But I would recommend before we do anything, we hear from the Transit Committee as to what our options are and how they might jeopardize the grant.
Could I make a motion in the form of something that the Transit Committee be tasked with finding alternate locations that would also be sufficient for that grant, include in the terms of, I guess you're saying it's got to be so many park pickups, but can I task that to the Transportation Committee?
Sure, and remember this, I guess this is technically the SMART Committee. Edward, what, is it called the SMART Committee, or it's a joint city-university committee?
System, but it's a joint between the university and the city, along with CBB representatives.
Yeah, let's just call it the Transit Committee, yeah. Yeah, and I would ask also in that motion, if you are willing, to authorize city staff to begin repair and maintenance of the paving. Because Edward thinks most of the patching that will get us through the winter can be done in-house. But since this is park infrastructure, but we need to have a board order that says we can do that.
Does there need to be any kind of cost associated with that?
I mean, it's going to cost, but it's within the current maintenance budget that the street department has to do so. So there's no additional cost outside of your budget.
Well, the original pickup deal, it would be 20, 25 cars where they take them down and leave them. But now then, there's not many people not many people picked up them down there. It's 2 or 3 cars, about all you ever see down there at one time. And at one time, it'd be 20, 25 down there, under the old bus route that they had.
Mr. Mayor, may we recognize?
You may.
Mr. Mayor, when this matter was first brought to our attention some weeks ago, I made a personal trip down to the Sportsplex to have a personal observation of this situation, and it is one, in my opinion, that deserves immediate attention. So hopefully, if there's a motion tonight that this matter will not get tied down in bureaucracy. I know that Mr. Kemp's staff is very busy with already board-approved projects. I like the idea that the gentleman from 3 had, was to get the engineer to give us a recommendation to see how we should proceed. And the engineer indicated that he was not prepared, and which is understandably so, to give us a recommendation right now. But what concerns me is that even with the gentleman from 1 idea about the matter of how can we get some relief from the smart bus, I think one prudent thing would be to get our attorney to look at the documentation and paperwork to see what relief we can get. I mean, there are a lot of ways you can skin that cat, hopefully, in this instance, in that you can still have a nexus, and I haven't read the documents to the parks without having to actually go on site at the parks. It appears from listening to the commissioner and the director and others that the buses may have some impact upon the deterioration of this situation. But the parks needs to, the Sportsplex parking area needs to be corrected immediately. This is an area where there is a lot of high-profile traffic. We have a lot of high-profile events. This is a showcase for our city, and we need to do whatever is necessary and proper. And I'd like to hear from the engineer. I'm certainly not one, and I think he would have some reasonable recommendation how we need to proceed. But this does not need to be one as we get ready to approach the winter. You know, we normally get to hear all type of things is when it rains and can't get this done or that done. But no, thanks to the Park Commission, they're steady bringing visitors in. People are coming in, soccer tournaments, softball, you name it, they are there. And a lot of people may not get to City Hall, but they're there at our Sportsplex. And this presents a picture of how individuals perceive Starkville once they go down to the Sportsplex. So I am of the opinion that we need to do whatever is necessary and proper. If that is, we need to get some additional bids on this project, or whether we need to just look at some some bids just for the affected point and not to do the whole area. But I think it's certainly worthwhile to get our attorney to look at the documents. I believe that it's reasonable to see how we can get relief from the buses, even though we may not have any direct proof, if any, that the buses may be causing that. But we have nothing to lose by our attorney looking at that paperwork to see can maybe they stop out there on Lynn Lane or somewhere close there too, without having to go to the park. I think you don't have to go right up in someone's front door to get picked up. So with those things being said, I agree with the gentleman from 3. I like to hear what the engineers say, but we do need to get something before winter sits in. We need to get this done because this is a very urgent and necessitous matter, and it just cannot wait any longer. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Further discussion. Alderman Walker.
Coming tonight, there's been lots of discussion about the Sportsplex, and I agree with Vice Mayor Perkins to the extent that I've been out there. My kids are active users of this park and other parks in town, and it doesn't have a great impression right now, but it goes beyond, in my opinion, goes much beyond the actual asphalt surface. This is something that needs to be addressed. I think it's great that we're hosting soccer tournaments and baseball tournaments, and I had the good fortune of taking part of that over this summer with my children. And there are a number of issues with the park that needs basic maintenance that, while we're looking for big dollar fixes to fix this, we've got fencing that needs to be fixed and other things at the Sportsplex. If we want to continue to compete with Tupelo and Oxford and Meridian, places that have new tournament-ready fields that are going to attract crowds, we have to do a better job. We certainly can help right there. I think it may be true that the bus doesn't come to your house and pick you up, but research clearly shows that if you don't have easy walking distance and be able to get on a sidewalk and walk to that bus to pick up, which we don't have at the Sportsplex currently, if we were to pick up at the overflow site, that creates a real issue. It's very important. It's very important that we don't try to solve one problem by creating another. I think the city engineer, if he's been in consultation with the mayor, is that probably the best path forward is patch the problem that we currently have to find out how do we come to a real solution. I think that is the prudent course of action to take. The bus system has potential huge benefit for our city. The parks, we all know, have a huge and are a huge benefit for our system, our city. If we want to continue to be successful and have our parks be the pride and joy of our city, which we want them to be, it takes us looking at this issue not just in a vacuum, but looking at how it affects the broader community. So I think while I'm not generally for a stopgap solution, I think the solution in this matter is patch the holes to get us through the winter till we come up with an engineering study to figure out how do we fix this or find alternative routes for the bus. I don't think we can make that decision tonight. I think if we made that decision tonight, it would be a rush decision. And I'm afraid we're setting up bad precedent on this board of making rush decisions on things where we don't have to act immediately without looking at all the data and thinking things through before we make decisions that are going to impact everyone in this community. So thank you for giving. This is clear that this problem needs to be addressed. But I think it's very important that we address it methodically and look at it so how we're going to prevent this problem from occurring in the future, whether that's alternative bus routes or whether that's thicker or different type of paving. I think moving forward, that's the direction that I would be interested in going, whether that's the city staff doing maintenance, and I know they are stretched thin, and I agree with Chris Taylor that everybody that works for this city deserves a raise, and I think we ought to do what we can to make that happen. With that being said, if that gets us through the winter until we can find a more viable solution, that would be the process that I would be in favor of.
You know, if you'll check back on the minutes, though, you're the one that voted against giving us funding the park to start with this time.
That's right. And I voted against it again because what I have seen is not a lack of resources, but a lack of management. And that's not you or Mr. Peters in general. That is overall. If you go to Moncrief Park, you're going to see problems. If you go to McKee Park, you see problems. If you go to the Sportsplex, you see problems. If you go to Patriots Park, you see problems. At some point, it's not a resource issue, it's a management issue.
Further discussion. Alderman Nguyen.
Good evening, Mr. Moreland, Mr. Peters. Thank you all so much for coming. And let me say something. I am favorable to the transportation system continuing to pick up at the park. I realize that we do have some problems, but I think about the days that we have inclement weather, on days that it's extremely cold. the residents over there in that area, they're not gonna, be walking from their homes over there. But I think about this, in short terms, yes, we do need it repaired. But if we're gonna continue the transit, I think about long term, where we might need to look at, in the long term, getting a parking fee. You know, Mr. Peters, you and I talked about that at the budget meeting. So that would be a long-term solution, but I realize that we've got to do something in the meantime.
Every time, as usage of the parks increases, and it increase every year, the expense of the park go up too.
Right.
And we have to have funding to do that. Anybody got any questions?
Further discussion, Alderman Carter.
City Attorney, I'd like for you to draft or give me your best opinion on a motion that would, I guess, suffice what we're talking about tonight as far as getting this patched as soon as possible. Do you offer any kind of motion that you think would get this, I mean, our mayor, I mean, if you could help us out?
Yeah, what I would do on the motion is include asking for a report from the Transit Committee, the patching, and the geotechnical study. That way we put ourselves in position to hear from the Transit Committee on the status of the grant and options as far as the route in the future. Immediately, as soon as we have staff capacity to do it, begin patching, and we get the geotechnical survey so that when we are in position to make a bigger capital outlay in the spring, we know exactly what we're asking for in a bid.
So do you think this will be patched here in 2 months, 3 months, or?
Edward, based on where your crew is right now, what's your best estimate of when they could start working?
Feel like we'll be able to start, I would say we won't be able to necessarily move in, stay there until it's done, do several patches, and then probably do some other things and come back. So it'll take us over the course of 2 or 3 months. But I think we can mobilize additionally within the next 2 or 3 weeks.
If we don't do something fast, we're gonna be offering fishing classes before long. I'd like to have that motion, if you just work on that, City Attorney, and then also, just a thought is, you know, I guess this is back to, probably the mayor, is why couldn't people park in that front parking lot and then put a stop out on Lynn Lane, or can you not stop traffic with a stop, or have some kind of pull-off right in front of the park, you know, a little small lane put in?
I think it's something they need to discuss. You would have to do something. You're talking about the side overflow lot. If you're going to use that as a parking facility, you would have to do something to improve it. You probably wouldn't have to pave it, but at least gravel. And again, I'm not an expert on the materials you might use, but I think that's something for the Transit Committee to discuss next time they meet.
When you use that overflow parking, though, you got 2 problems. Number one, you got a mud hole in the wintertime, and in the summertime, you can't get in there to cut it.
I wasn't speaking about that, though. I was really speaking about the one right in front of the Sportsplex, and then if you're talking 4 or
But
5.
when they'll do that and leave the cars there, and then we have no place for people to park.
Right,
That's why we moved it to the far end down there.
right. I was thinking about maybe putting a stop right on Lynn Lane, right in front of, in front of the park, basically. Just put an asphalt turn-in lane where the bus can pull in, have a bus stop like the other 2 on Lynn Lane, or shelter, but I do want to do something to address this, because I don't see, everybody knows winter's coming and this is going to get worse and worse. So if we can patch to get us through, the winter, that's fine with me.
Alderman Little.
I understand it may take 2 or 3 months to get that done. Peak soccer season is going to be kicking off here in about 3 weeks. And I'm through there about 3 or 4 times a week right now dropping on my daughter, and the cars are just zigging and zagging trying to, is there something we can put some gravel in those holes or something so you don't bottom out? Just to buy you some time?
And obviously, when we go out and start our work on the repairs, then first. And we'll do our best to get it done as quickly as possible.
I know you will. Thank you.
All right, the city attorney is proofreading his motion, it looks like. So we'll stand by.
Alderman Carver, see if this works for you. Move that the city immediately patch and repair the surface of the roads and streets within the Starkville Park complex, receive a report from the Transit Committee on long-term solutions, including appropriate bus pickup, and authorize RFPs to go out for a geotechnical study to find a structural long-term solution.
Do you want an RFP?
We would need our RFP, would we not, Edward? Or
It's going to be less than $5,000.
Okay.
Just authorize the city engineer to contract.
So that last section will say, and authorize the city engineer to contract for a geotechnical study to find a structural long-term solution.
Alderman Carver?
That'll work. I just want to put some kind of timeline from the transit committee because I don't want it to get back in 4 or 5 months from now, maybe 60 days.
Sounds good. All right,
Fair
Chris,
enough.
can you read the motion one more time in its
Sure.
entirety?
Move that the city immediately patch and repair the surface of the roads and streets of the Starkville Park complex, receive a report within 60 days from the Transit Committee on a long-term solution, including appropriate bus pickup, and authorize the city engineer to contract for a geotechnical study to find a structural long-term solution.
Alderman Carver, is that your motion?
Yes, sir.
All right, since the motion has been reduced to writing and it has been read, I will not ask for a reread without objection. Any objection? All right, seeing none, do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Nguyen. Alderman Carver, do you wish to speak on the merits?
No, sir.
Discussion. Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. And it's unanimous. Thank you, gentlemen.
All right, thank you.
I'm going to email it because it's chicken scratch right now.
All right, the next matter before you is a public appearance by Bill Broyles and Brett Harris presenting the proposed 2% budget on behalf of the Student Association.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Board of Alderman. I appreciate y'all adding this to the agenda tonight. As you recall, each year we're required by the statute to present a proposed 2% food and beverage tax budget to you. Every year we look at the amount of money that was received in the previous fiscal year and frankly use that as the base of what our projection will be for the coming year. This past fiscal year, and we used the university fiscal year, this past fiscal year we received $325,000 as our portion of the 2% tax. That was actually higher than we predicted at this when we presented the budget last year, and so we ended the year with a surplus of $14,000. So this year we're going to propose to you a proposed budget of $329,000, which again reflects the amount of money that we received this year plus the surplus that we ended the year. I'm going to get Student Association President Harris to kind of go over the details briefly of what we're proposing. But what we've done this year, and frankly, we listen to you every year about comments that we get from you. And what we've tried to do this year is to focus all of the money being spent on events that are going to generate additional commerce, bring bigger events into the city and campus, hopefully bring in visitors from out of town. And so hopefully you'll see that this year we've hit that mark. So Brett, could you go over, please?
We have 5 organizations that will be getting this money. First is Music Makers Productions, which is a student organization which brings artists to campus. They see the largest jump from last year. They had they were budgeted $110,000, and this year they will be budgeted $131,000. Bulldog Bash will remain the same that it was budgeted last year at $120,000. The night route, which we will have changes to, it will now be a cab system that we are contracting out through Bulldog Taxi, the Starkville business, and it will take students now from the bar to their home instead of just to the fraternity row. And with that amount of budgeting will stay the same as last year at $23,000. Old Main Music Festival will jump $3,000 from $27,000 to $30,000, and then Lyceum Series will remain the same at $35,000. One of the biggest changes from last year is we had diversity programming, which received $10,000. This year it will be funded through an earmark commission instead of through the 2% fund.
Questions? Alderman Carver.
First of all, the transit system to people's houses, is that individual rides home? I mean, is that?
It's a free taxi ride system. It'll be operated by the Lane Etheridge, the Bulldog Taxi.
Will that be people outside the city limits, or is that going to, I mean, I
It's
understand.
just the Starkville area. It won't go to the Highlands, and it won't go to out past Walmart.
You'll just ask them before they get on the bus where they live, or?
It'll be like a taxi, but yes, they'll ask where they live.
The second thing, and I always do this, is it's been different students every year, is also, when you start planning this, always please plan for some kind of trash pickup. I know Bulldog Bash, yeah, they're actually pretty good about coming through there. I was there one night and 60 or 70 people were picking up trash, and that's what it took. And I know the city's got to come. We try to help some of our city workers. If you would, when you start planning all this stuff, just kind of always have a plan for that. That's my only request.
Yes, sir. And this year we've asked for 3 extra dumpsters as well, so that'll help with trash pickup, and it won't just be a big pile on the side of the road.
Thank you.
Further questions or comments from the members of the board?
Okay.
Mr. Mayor.
Alderman Walker.
First of all, thank you all. I think the Student Association does very well with the 2% money that you get, and we all look forward to the events that come to Starkville. And we broached this subject in the past last year, and I think it's one that I'm going to bring up again to see if we can find a way to make this happen. Where I live, I represent Ward 4. That's also includes the Cotton District area. I think our students of Mississippi State handle themselves like very responsible citizens, and that's what we would all hope that they would do. On occasion, they may lose sight of that, and when we have things that I notice in my neighborhood, because I walk it every day, sometimes we have signs that may go missing or signs bent over, an inordinate amount of litter on occasion, especially around the restaurants and the bars in that area. And signage issues, lights that may be getting bust out, and Mr. Kemp could maybe talk a little bit more about that. Now, there's no proof that all that students, but I would say probably a good percentage of that are students that are leaving the facilities and maybe aren't in their best frame of mind that they might be the next day. With that being said, and that's where a lot of the student events occur, and I want it to continue for those students events to occur there. I think it would be really one of the things that we don't have. We don't really have any trash cans. The university has an excellent trash can system, have an excellent signage system. If we could find a way, beyond the dumpsters for these events, to find a way to potentially, in those areas that's going to be predominantly dominated by students that are part of an event or not part of the event, to be able to look at potentially a few additional trash cans, a little bit of money for signage, and potentially bike racks. Now, I realize there may be some issues there, but I'm going to throw that out to find a way to be able to include some of that on that part of it. I think would make tremendous improvements, both in the quality of life that the students are going to have, but also for everyone else to be able to enjoy. So thank you for all the hard work that you do. I know being a one-year president at the university is awfully tough work, but the good news is you've got an excellent mentor. So thank you.
Alderman Perkins.
Mayor, I'd just like to ask one question, but first of all, let me just say I appreciate your presence in our community and thank you for all that you do. One thing I'd just like to ask of you is that in light of your $329,000 budget, of course, and I supported when it came up for consideration by the board for the MSU to get 20% of the 2% tax money. My question is why is it necessary for you to receive a in-kind service contribution in the form of $10,299.64 when you have a $329,000 budget? That's just a question I'm just curious.
Well, we view Bulldog Bash as a partnership with the city, and so many people come into the city the night before a big, large football game for that one event. And with all the production that goes on into a show and all the sponsorship that we just go out and get throughout the city, it's nice to have that support, additional support.
Thank you.
Further questions or comments? Any further questions or comments from the members of the board? Any further questions or comments? Seeing none, thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank y'all for your consideration.
Next matter you have before you is the second public hearing on revision of the landscape ordinance. Mr. Sanders, would you come forward and introduce?
Tonight is the second hearing with the proposed landscape ordinance change. Since the last hearing, staff has met with the Tree Advisory Board and one member of the public that showed interest in the landscape ordinance, and we've made fairly minor changes since the last time we met. And Daniel Havlin, our city planner, will go over the changes that have taken place to the text of the ordinance.
The majority of the changes to this version of the draft is just clerical stuff, catching stuff that might have been missed in the first round. The biggest thing is probably adding a definition for the word mulch, just making it organic mulch rather than allowing rocks or in some cases glass, stuff like that to be used as mulch. The other one was removing the word morals, which is a request from citizens, and then also the references on the back were linked to websites, and so to websites that were linking to publications. So instead of using the website to link to the publication, it was just doing a bibliographic index for the publication to make it easier to find in case that website ever disappeared. And that is really the majority of the changes from the previous draft.
Mr. Sanders, let me ask you a question. Could you explain what the ordinance does with regard to like the number of required trees and landscape, you know, current versus proposed?
The landscape requirements were changed as far as percentage. You now receive a higher percentage, a higher count for canopy trees and also small trees as opposed to the previous count. So by encouraging a landscape architect to use more canopy trees and small trees, you get more trees as opposed to shrubs.
Thank you.
Any further questions or comments from the members of the board?
I have one.
Alderman Mayor.
Could you go into a little more detail, for example, in a new development that was going forward, the old ordinance compared to the new ordinance would require more trees or less trees? Or is the configuration different in the overall ordinance?
It would be less trees overall. In the main area that the tree count would be reduced is in what's considered the non-vehicular open space areas.
Right.
The current ordinance reads as for the smallest requirement is 4 large canopy trees per 500 square feet, which is kind of a spatial issue to even fit that many trees in a small area. And so that number's been adjusted and then kind of going with more of a plant unit count where it incentivizes the use of the canopy trees but reduces the overall actual requirement for them. So there's still the option if you want to go with more trees, you certainly can.
As a landscape architect, you're comfortable with this?
Very comfortable.
Thank you.
Any further questions or comments from the members of the board? Alderman Walker.
I would just like to say thank you for city staff and for working to help make this an ordinance that is, I think, more usable and can be more palatable. I also commend you for continuing to work with the Tree Advisory Board that put a lot of time and effort into drafting this original ordinance that I believe takes us light years ahead of where we were. And if anybody wants to see the difference, just go look at the shopping center where the chalet and those are, and you can see the new Starbucks that's been built there and the tree canopy that's going to dramatically change how Highway 12 looks. The landscape ordinance is a very important part of, somebody mentioned earlier, the quality of life piece. This is a huge piece of that. I think we've gone and we've taken an ordinance that was a very good first step, and now we've massaged that a little bit, so we're moving the ball a little bit further down the road as a way to balance the developer's needs, but also maintaining the city standard for making sure that we are moving forward with how we change what the quality of life in our city is. So thank you for working hard on that, and thank you for the Tree Advisory Board for being diligent volunteers for our city.
And community Development would like to thank the board for this support.
Further questions or comments from the members of the board? Any further questions or comments from the members of the board? Seeing none, thank you, gentlemen. We'll now move to public comment. Any citizen wishing to make comments on the proposed ordinance revision may do so by coming forward, introducing yourself, and you'll be recognized to speak for a maximum of 3 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Alvin. I would like, once you all get that ordinance together, if you could send me a copy. A lot of people wonder, we changed the ordinance, we changed the ordinance, we changed the ordinance. Then they don't know what to do. They don't know what's right, what's not right. And I would like to say a few comments, if I may. I ride smart bus 4 days a week. It's getting rough on the passenger and the driver of the bus. The only thing that will work will be concrete, because we have a wheelchair lift on the bus. And we don't want it to drag, and we don't want that bad boy to get stuck. If we put asphalt, it's only gonna bust it up. You had to put concrete, something that's solid, to hold that weight. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Turner. Further comments? Are there any further comments on the proposed ordinance revision? Any further comments? Any further comments? Seeing none, we'll hear concluding comments from the members of the board. Any concluding comments from the members of the board? Are there any concluding comments from the members of the board? Seeing none, that will conclude this, our second public hearing on the revision of the landscape ordinance. The next matter you have before you is the consideration of entering into a purchase contract for acquisition of the Cadence property. Alderman Perkins, would you like to introduce?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. The Chief Administrative Officer and Finance Director, Mr. Taylor Adams, gave a report at our last regular scheduled meeting, and gave a very good report, very involved report. And Mayor, you made it clear that you gave him the directive to move forward with this and get the information to the board. And my recollection from Mr. Adams, as Finance Director, that he made it clear that with the revenue projection, without a tax increase, that we can acquire the Cadence property, real and personal property therein, given various revenue projection without a tax increase. And Mr. Adams, with that being said, I want to ask you a question. I want you to give us some explanation. Am I correct that we can, the city can acquire this property, given your familiarity with the revenue of the city, based upon your knowledge as a finance director, in that we can acquire this property without having to have a tax increase?
Yes, Vice Mayor.
Okay, would you just tell the board what is the revenue available to pay for this acquisition of the building and property if the board decides to go forward with this?
Yes, sir, certainly. There's through the existing certificates of participation that are available to issue, and there is the building that we're in. There would be some value that would need to be received for it, as well as the another city asset. Most likely that would be the lagoon on the northeast side of town, somewhere in the neighborhood of 25 acres. We've had both of those appraised, and the appraisals are such that there would seem to be revenue to accomplish the goal.
Mr. Adams, I want you to be more specific. This is a big decision we're about to make. And as to the certificate of participation, my understanding from the last vote that was taken in June of 2013, at one of the last meetings of the last board, there was an $8 million certificate of participation with $6.7 million going toward the city hall. So I think one of your figures on the paperwork indicated like a 1.2 plus $1 million certificate of participation. Is it not correct that the certificate of participation remaining should be $1.3 million?
Yes, sir. I allowed a small amount for any issuance cost in putting those bonds out there until we get to the point where we issue them. There's some cost that just remains unknown, but so I was conservative in my estimate for that reason.
But the correct amount that is available for the after the 6.7 left for the new municipal complex is 1.3 million for whatever
Yes, sir.
ways and
That's
means is we at 1.3 million, right?
Yes, sir.
How much are you projecting for the other city assets? That's being the sale of this city hall, right?
Yes, sir.
How much are you projecting for that?
This building appraised for $800,000, and then we believe that we don't believe the property on the northeast side of the town appraised at $20,000 an acre. There's 28 acres left there, so that gets us to that with the 800 for this building, and potentially more with a couple of changes when we dig that we can make to this building as we dig into the appraisal report would get us in the neighborhood of. Again, we don't have an offer on the table, but between 1.3 and 1.5 million.
So how much are you saying that we should get the top dollar for the lagoon property?
I would say a top dollar for that property would be in the neighborhood of $650,000.
So we're about $850,000 for the city hall, $1.3 million for the certificate of participation. That's about $2.1 million. About $600,000, so we're about $2.6 million more or less, right?
Yes, Vice Mayor.
So we have sufficient money to satisfy any purchase contract that we may enter into with Cadence. Is that correct, Mr. Adams?
Yes, sir.
In the letter of intent that was dated June 10, 2014, the purchase price in that is, am I correct, is $2.5 million?
2.55, yes, Vice Mayor.
So that'll be enough money to take care of that without having any increase of tax. Am I completely correct?
That's correct, Vice Mayor.
Mr. Mayor, given the representations that made by our city finance director and our chief administrative officer that there would be no needed tax increase, Mr. Attorney, I would like for you to give some recommended language on, and that's because you're familiar with the documents that we've signed, or the mayor has signed on behalf of the city, some recommended language on acquiring the real and personal property over at Cadence Bank, and I'd like to include in that motion that building and property house not only the police department operation, but the municipal court operation. Do you have any recommended language for me?
Sure, I think if the board is so inclined, this motion would effectuate your intent. Move that the city of Starkville enter into a purchase contract with Cadence Bank immediately after review and approval of the city attorney, and consistent with the terms and conditions set forth in the attached letter of intent dated June 30, 2014, entered into between the city and Cadence Bank for the fee simple and unencumbered purchase of the Cadence Bank main branch and associated real and personal property located at 301 East Main Street in Starkville, Mississippi, to house and facilitate the operations of the Starkville Police Department and Municipal Court.
Mr. Mayor, I offer that motion. If we get a second, I'd like to call for a roll call vote, please, sir.
All right, motion has been made, and it has been read, so without objection, it's been reduced to writing. I will not reread it. Any objection? Any objection? All right, seeing none, do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Vaughn. Alderman Perkins, do you wish to speak on the merits?
No, sir, I'd like to have a roll call vote.
All right, are you making a motion to what's known in Robert's Rules of Order as previous question? That's a motion which asks for 2/3 of the assembly to vote to move into a vote.
No, we can just have a majority vote, Mayor.
No, it's a 2/3 vote if you want to force a vote.
I'm not.
You can do it by acclamation or you can do it by 2/3.
We do it acclamation, Mayor.
All right, is there any objection to now moving into a vote on Alderman Perkins' motion?
Prior to discussion?
No, not prior to discussion. We have discussion.
Oh, I thought you wanted to move into vote right now.
No, I'm not cutting off the
discussion. Any discussion? Alderman Little.
First, I'd like to say that I'm not against it. I'm in favor of looking deeper into this, the purchase and acquisition of the Cadence facility. 3 weeks ago, the board had decided we had 120 days, I believe, from that time. Is that correct, City Attorney? Maybe a little bit more.
120.
To do our due diligence. I'm not sure that anything has changed in the last 3 weeks. I haven't been provided anything showing otherwise. I think these are the same figures that were discussed, financial figures that were discussed by the CAO at the last meeting. Now that we've got firm appraisals, though they've changed slightly. Have we secured any cost estimates as far as design modifications that are going to need to be required to the Cadence facility to make it to meet PD standards?
We don't have an architect.
Okay. I think that's something that we would need to address. That's an unknown factor. Surely there's going to be some changes and modifications that are going to need to be done, and I think that would be part of the process that we should look to determine what that expense is going to be. It's a nice looking building. We don't want to go in there and jake leg it up and half do it. We need to do it right, but we need to know going in what it's going to cost. As far as, do we have a sales contract at all, City Attorney? Have you started any as far as drafting anything, a template or?
No, it's coming from Cadence, and I was in communication with them this afternoon, and they are not ready with the contract yet. They had some people out of town today that slowed down that process.
Operational costs were mentioned earlier tonight. I think that's a big thing that we need to consider. Look at the utility bills. What are they running over there? What's the janitorial expenses going to run? Landscape upkeep. There's a lot of things. That's a big building. There's going to be a lot of upkeep, and we don't want to be house poor, as some people say, and spend everything we've got to get in there, and then we can't keep it up. What about having it inspected? Do we need to move forward? We'll look at getting someone to inspect the building. We don't know if the AC units are half working, if they're going to go out next week. Things that you do if you were purchasing a home. This is going to be a big expense, and I think we should slow down a little bit. I don't know what the rush is. And do our due diligence. And if our due diligence takes us there, then so be it. But that's my take on it.
Alderman Walker.
I completely agree with Alderman Little in this case. I think this is an example of this potentially might be the best solution for our PD, but we don't know yet. The numbers that have been presented are very broad strokes. It gives us enough time, if we take a little bit more time, to find out what operational costs are going to be, and to look at, are there other ways and other means that the city has to pay for this without selling all of these assets. Certainly this building would be an asset that we'd probably look to sell, but we might be able to keep the lagoon. One of the potential advantages of looking at that current site at the Cadence site is we have buildable real estate in front of the building. I don't think that is something that needs to be pulled off the table. We need a little bit, if we were able to redevelop the front of that and at least purchase some other agreement that we might have time over the next 100 or so days to look at, we might be able to hold on to that lagoon to be able to sell at a later date or turn into a park system that's going to serve northeast Starkville. I think this very well might be the best long-term solution for our police department. But I am totally unwilling to make that decision tonight without unreliable data to be able to make an informed decision. It's too big of a decision to rush. We need to pull back, make sure we have real figures in front of us, look at what the real operational costs are going to be and the real renovation costs are going to be. Vice Mayor pointed out and the CAO has pointed out that yes, we can sell basically the assets that we have and that'll get us in the building. Well, what happens once you get in the building? Are we not going to give the police officers any raises? Are we not going to have any more police officers? There are a whole host of issues that we need to look at. And I don't see anything wrong with taking a little bit more time so we can get those numbers pulled together and think this thing through before we make a knee-jerk reaction decision that we don't have all the answers to. So I am certainly in favor of moving the ball forward, but not voting to purchase this building tonight. I think that would be a bad move for the city of Starkville to make a rash decision on purchasing this building at tonight's meeting.
Further discussion. Alderman Wynn.
I have a question for our CAO. On the summary that you provided us, it says $250,000 to $350,000 for renovation derived from either other city assets or additional borrowing. Will you speak to that? Because it concerns me because it says or additional borrowing.
Well, sure, Alderman. When I put that list together, again, there were, that was at the front end of this process. We did not know where we were headed. But I think as it relates to the need for additional borrowing, of course, that's something that the board has to determine. But I'll stand by the answers that I gave to the questions from the Vice Mayor earlier tonight on the remainder of those issues.
Okay, let me ask you one more question. I want you to just speak on record to this. The last board meeting, during your presentation, you represented that we could acquire this property without a tax increase. Is that your position tonight?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, I mean, you have complete control of your budget, so yes, I absolutely believe you can accomplish this without a tax increase.
Alderman Nguyen, do you yield?
I do.
All right, let me make some comments. I fully support the road that we're on, and I think we're going to get there. I think it's going to be a very good thing for the city when we do get there. And if y'all authorize me to sign a contract tonight, I'll work as hard as I can to get us at that point. But I think this is a little premature because we still have some very important questions that we have to answer before we do get there. Yes, we know that we have assets that are potentially worth enough to make this transaction work within our current budget framework. Knowing the potential value of assets and having an offer to purchase are two very different things. I think we need to be working as hard as we possibly can right now to determine the market to actually purchase this building, to potentially purchase the lagoon. And I will tell you, additionally, we are also going to have some additional space in both within the new building and new space in Cadence that we need to look at lease options for that space. It's future growth space for us, but I think there are potential avenues for us to get some lease revenue now on those facilities. I will tell you quite candidly, I have had conversations with the school superintendent, and I don't know where that might lead. The school system is certainly not in a position where they're ready to execute a lease agreement now, but I would like to continue that conversation because I think the school system could be an ideal tenant for the new City Hall building, which could potentially have some additional space if this transaction is made. But there are a lot of ifs in that statement. In our last board meeting, I said I thought all of this realistically would take about 4 months. That's about Thanksgiving. Now, if we are being prudent about it, I think we should give ourselves up until Thanksgiving to get to this point. If we really, really push it and push as hard as we can push, I think it is possible. Not a 100% guarantee, but possible that we could get to a point where we were actually ready to make this decision by October 1st. But that is as early as I could see us getting to that point. And again, if you approve authorization for the contract, me and the Chief Administrative Officer are going to continue to work on these things daily. If we get answers to all of these questions, then we'll sign a contract. I'm not even exactly sure what this motion would do, whether it's a mandate to sign a contract immediately, because I'll tell you, we have an immediate problem before we answer some of these questions, and that is when we sign a contract, it's going to require $75,000 in earnest money. We do not have $75,000 in earnest money at our disposal right now. Now, we potentially will if we can execute the transactions that we've previously discussed. But the old saying is a bird in the hand is worth two in the bush. Right now, we're not holding anything on those transactions. So I would recommend that we do a little bit more work and try to move as quickly as possible to a contract. If we're setting the most aggressive timeline possible, I hope we'll get there by October 1st. Realistically, I think Thanksgiving is a better goal for us to set internally for making the transaction. But I think one thing that we can all agree upon is this is something that we want to pursue and we'd like to pursue vigorously. Alderman Wynn.
By all means, I'm so supportive of us acquiring the Cadence property. But tonight, I'm concerned. I'm concerned because there are too many unknowns for me at this stage and point. I'm really uncomfortable. I yield the floor at this time.
Further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Alderman Mayor.
I would like to offer my colleague from 6 a friendly amendment if we could move to engage an architect to give us a discussion, estimate of renovation cost, and also go forward with a building inspection to determine and make sure the building is in adequate condition to purchase, thereby continuing progress toward the purchase of the building in lieu of authorizing signing a contract tonight.
Mr. Mayor, may I recognize?
You may.
Mr. Mayor, very briefly, I don't think there are any unknowns at this table tonight. The board has discussed this matter prior to tonight. It's my recommendation that our honorable mayor has embraced this project as his. He's claimed ownership and authorship of this. Members of the board have spoken in favor of this project. The chief administrative officer has indicated that there is no tax increase that is needed, unlike the next matter that's going to come up that's going to require a tax increase if passed. The matter is ready to move forward. I think there is some unjustifiable reason for wanting to delay this project. I'm not convinced that it needs to be delayed. Since my presence here as alderman since 1993, on about the 6th day of July, there have been a number of locations that have come up for a police department. And it is my opinion that this is the most ideal one for a police department. We've given all the history back in time before any of you even thought about becoming a member of this board. Go all the way back down to the old Walmart location when the property was donated to the city. I've seen a lot of opportunities. I mean, and the whole discussion on the municipal complex has been a police department. It's never really been the idea of a city hall. We've had opportunities, the old post office, whether you remember that or not, the old bank deposit guarantee over by the fire station number 1. Just been so many locations that have come up. You know, we've been able to buy property and been able to manage it. Of course, you know, the electric department got that new building with the acquisition of the 3 tracts of land for $2 million. This is ideal. We are here downtown. That's what the voters have said in the past. We need a good downtown location. The mayor says that we do not have $75,000. That is a policy decision. That's a decision for this Board of Alderman. We can have it if we want to have it. It just depends upon how we want to handle that. So, you know, there are no unknowns. I mean, this is a great opportunity. You know, I'm not wanting to come out here and make this type of a move in terms of acquiring this property, but I think, in my opinion, that it's a good thing. It's a good thing. It's downtown, the police department, municipal court. Certainly, you know, this will be good for them to be located together, and it will be just ideal for Starkville, will be ideal for the police department, and certainly it is reasonably foreseeable that, you know, that this property will sell once it is placed on the market, and the mayor mentioned about additional revenue from any lease space with the with the school district or any other potential person who may be interested in leasing property. So that's revenue that the chief administrative officer did not even include in his projection. So, and you hear the city administration often talking about how we're having growth in revenue, how we are growing in the city. So we have ways and means, if you look at the big picture, to pay for this. There's no unknown, city of Starkville, about where we're going to go if we buy this property. I'm not in favor of an amendment from the gentleman from 5. I like to get a vote, Mayor, up and down on this thing. If it failed, then, but, you know, and this property acquisition has been embraced even at the last meeting. And this is good, this is great. And we get here tonight on the eve of talking about economic development bonds, then the weather and the temperature changes for some reason. So I think this is a good thing to do. There's no tax increase. This is good for the city. We need to get our police department in a location that's very operational. We need to get our municipal court in a location, and the time has arrived. This is the opportunity. I've seen a lot of opportunities throughout the 21 plus years I have been on this board, but this is a prime time to do it, and I am convinced that this is the right thing to do, and I'm going to vote for it. I'm going to stand on my vote. I'm going to stand on what I believe in. This is a good thing to do. There's no unknown. I encourage my freshman colleagues, don't have any leeriness about about these conversations that you may not be uncertain of at this table. There is nothing unknown at this table about where we're headed. We have a finance director that was employed to make these recommendations, just like our city engineer did tonight about the parking lot at the sportsplex. We got to give confidence. That's what he said. That's his field. That's his major. No tax increase. No tax increase. I mean, he's the expert. He's the authority. So let's move forward tonight. There's no reason to delay this. So, Mr. Mayor, I call for the question, and I ask that we go to a roll call vote after everybody finished discussing this matter.
Without objection, we'll move to, I see an objection. Alderman Webb.
Vice Mayor, if you don't mind, I would like to add 2 friendly amendments to that, to your motion. And one of them is simply this: advertise for requests for the qualification for architectural services for that property that we're in question about tonight, which is Caden's property. And the other one is to authorize the mayor to order all needed building inspections for that property. That's all I'm asking you to do, is add those 2 to your motion that you put on the table tonight.
Mayor, let me ask the attorney. Mr. Attorney, is that already covered in the letter of intent? I think that requires inspections and things before we can purchase. Isn't that included?
The way the letter of intent reads is in paragraph 7, it says that the city shall have 120 days effective on the date the contract is entered into to conduct reasonable investigations.
Okay.
Now, the city could, if it pleases, do that before entering into a contract, but the way the letter of intent reads, which is attached to the motion, is that a 120-day time period triggers upon the entry of the purchase contract.
Okay, so that's covered in the contract. Vice Mayor, will you accept the first one that I said about the request for the qualifications for the architectural services for that property?
Well, I would like to get to up and down vote, and we can have a subsequent vote on that after that. And I certainly would support it if we can get my motion passed.
Okay.
May I call for the question?
All right, without objection. Without objection, we'll now move into a roll call vote on Alderman Perkins' motion. Please answer yea, nay, abstain, as the city clerk calls your name.
Alderman Carr.
Nay.
Alderman Wynn. Yay. Alderman Little.
Nay.
Alderman Walker.
Nay.
Alderman Maynard.
Nay.
Alderman Perkins.
Yay.
Alderman Vaughn.
Yay.
By a vote of 3 in favor with 4 against, this measure fails. You may.
Alderman Wynn, would you read what you just
I
read a
will.
minute ago?
I will. I would like to do 2 separate motions that I'd like. The first one is move approval of advertising for requests for qualifications for architectural services related to renovation of the Cadence Bank Building. That's number 1. And my second would be approval of authorizing the mayor to order all needed building inspections as outlined in the letter of intent for purchase of the property at 301 East Main Street.
All right, let's take those one at a time. Go ahead and pass them.
And of course, I've got writing all over.
All right, the
Can you read my writing?
motion from Alderman Nguyen is move approval of advertising for requests for qualifications for architectural services related to related to the renovation of the Cadence Bank building. Is that your motion?
Yes.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Little. Alderman Nguyen, do you wish to speak on the matter?
No.
Further discussion. Alderman Perkins.
Mayor, what concerns me with that motion is, I mean, you want to have these tests and analysis done, but there has been no commitment into a contract. So when you get that back and you spend that money and get that back, what you going to do then? I mean, you still have the same financial situation, the same financial picture. The financial picture is complete tonight. I'm just going to have to just call it like it is. This motion is just doesn't have any merit. And it lacks merit because number one is you're not making a commitment to buy the building. So if you get it back, then there's no guarantee that this board's going to move forward. After you get all these findings back from these experts and these other persons who you wanted to engage in these services. So I think that this is just an attempt to try to crawl around and to say you did something. You know, I just don't see any meat to this. I mean, I don't see any worthwhileness in this. You're either going to buy the building or you're not. I mean, that's sound leadership in my opinion. Just either buy it or not. I mean, the board has voted 3-4, and so I mean, why do we keep dealing with it? If you're going to buy it, then we can go through it. The city attorney just said it's in the letter of intent dated June 10, 2014. Thank you.
Alderman Vaughn.
We have voted 4-3. Let's move on to the next one because what you gonna spend money? What you gonna spend money for? We gonna spend that money and still not purchase the building. So why are we moving into let's go to our next issue so we can go home.
Point of order.
Instead of being battling all night with this.
Mr. Mayor,
Further discussion.
my
Hold on.
motion received a second.
Did you have a point of order?
Motion's on the floor in a second.
It is, and Alderman Vaughn was making a comment, which each of you are inclined to do when you get the floor.
Mr. Mayor.
I've got Alderman Nguyen, then Alderman Carver.
I'm requesting a roll call on that also.
Okay. Alderman Carver.
I think what this does by you, the older I get and peace of mind becomes more and more each year, and I think what this does, it solidifies something on this deal, other than I guess two slides on the projector. That's about all I've seen on this. It's a lot I've said from the start. It's risky financing. I thought I want to see some more paperwork on a $2.5 million deal. I want more than what I've been given. I thought we'd have that tonight. I could vote on that tonight if what I thought was delivered was going to be here, but it wasn't. I'd like to see, logistical costs of what it's going to cost to get out of here. You're adding another electric bill for the city. I want to see what that costs versus this place. I want to see some solid numbers. I said that from the start. Just when you say something with a sale between $600,000 and $700,000, then I don't know how you solidify concrete numbers. You're going to tell me how this thing's going to be funded. Alderman Walker said a lot of points on. I agree with him on just the cost, the operational cost, logistic costs, things like that. There's got to be some renovation costs. I doubt they're going to be 100. I mean, I don't know how much they're going to cost. I want to see some of those numbers because that comes into play. I think if we had all that information tonight, I could have voted for it one way or the other. But I just think we're lacking in paperwork. I think one time a previous alderman told me to let the pot simmer. I don't think the pot simmered long enough on this one. I want to see what kind of numbers would come out with these RFQs, and then I'll be able to vote either way. I think everybody knows that the police station needs a place. I think they want to see this deal happen, but some of the most general financing I've seen so far since I've been on the board, I want to see something a little more concrete and give me some peace of mind. So yeah, if we got to spend a little money for that, I'm willing to vote for that.
Alderman Little.
I don't think any citizen out there, or anyone not present here tonight would fault us for doing due diligence. And I think that's something that we need to do and we should do, and we have a fiduciary duty to the public to do that prior to making a decision. And I don't think that we've done the due diligence since the last board meeting in the course of 3 weeks. At least I have not been given anything showing that. So I yield the floor.
Alderman Walker.
I'd like to Can somebody read that motion one more time, please?
Yeah, it is a motion to approve of advertising for requesting for qualifications for architectural services related to the renovation of the Cadence Bank building.
I'd like to offer a friendly amendment, if I might. I think to tighten that up a little bit, I think I don't believe what we're looking for here is to enter into architectural services to do a set of construction drawings for the renovation of that building. I think we're looking for architectural services to give us an estimate, a cost estimate of what it would take to renovate that building, which I am certainly in favor of, because I think that is one of the big unknowns that we don't have. To look at what it would take to renovate that building, and while we're doing it, potentially, what does it take to renovate City Hall beyond that 1.27 number? I think that's important, the cost estimate for renovation, and I would like to offer that as a friendly.
Do you accept that as friendly?
I do.
All right, so that would tack on to the motion. It would now read a motion to approve of advertising for a request for qualifications for architectural services for a cost estimate related to the renovation project of the Cadence Bank building. Alderman Walker and Alderman Nguyen, is that the intent of the friendly amendment?
That would be the intent.
All right. So it is now so amended. Further discussion.
Mr. Mayor.
Alderman Vaughn.
Mr. Mayor, members of the board, everybody says that we ain't gave it enough time. Why don't we just wait 120 days before we spend any more money, before we make all these amendments? Why don't we just wait 120 days and then we take action like y'all want us to do? Why are we doing all these amendments? Let's wait 120 days like everybody say, let's do. Instead of making all these amendments. The motion failed 4-3, so just let's wait 120 days and do it right.
Alderman Walker.
I would say my point to that would be that I was hoping that would be one of the actions that would take place in that 120 days, so I know what it is that I'm buying and how much is it going to cost me to renovate a bank and make it a police station. I think while we're on this, I think the other unknowns that's been mentioned before is annual operating cost. I want to see that number before in that next 120 days before I make a decision. At this point, we haven't seen a program for how is that space actually going to be occupied, other than saying it's going to be the police department, we might lease some space out, and it might be the municipal court. I want to see a program for what is it specifically how the police are going to use that building. I see the 120 days giving us the opportunity to dot those I's and cross those T's so we know if we choose then, if it's a good deal, to make this purchase. So I see that 120 days as giving us that information, and unless we take board action to get that information, we're not going to get it. We're going to get a single PowerPoint slide that says, "Oh yeah, we can do it." And I don't think that's being proven.
Further discussion. Any further Alderman Carver.
And reiterate what he said. I mean, I would feel the same way. If you want to kill this deal from just my vote and one vote is don't give me any more information. If you want the deal to work and you want me to vote in favor of it, give me some more information. I don't think anybody in here would vote right now on just what we've been given. I don't think that's fair for the citizens. If you want me to vote for it, convince me, and I haven't had any kind of convincing evidence yet. I mean, I think it's a good project, but it's just too general. Give me some specific information, and then let's really look at it. I haven't seen any kind of artistic renderings. I haven't seen any kind of layout. Any kind of, we've talked a little bit about the traffic coming and going, but as far as, I mean, there's still talks in the air of maybe being a retail multi-use development or just being strict police with a bank teller. I mean, that's just, all I know is what was said in the open meeting last time, so, give me more information, I guess. We have an opportunity for once to have 120 days. That's a blessing. Let's use it. Let's let the pot simmer a little bit, and let's get some of that information. I think you'll have a different vote next time.
Further discussion. Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, please answer yay, nay, or abstain when the city clerk calls your name on Alderman Nguyen's motion.
Alderman Carver.
Yay.
Alderman Nguyen. Yay. Alderman Little.
Yay.
Alderman Walker.
Yay.
Alderman Mayor.
Yay.
Alderman Perkins.
Nay.
Alderman Vaughn.
Nay.
By a vote of 5 in favor with 2 against, this measure passes. Alderman Nguyen, do you still wish to put forward your second motion?
Yes.
All right, motion from Alderman Nguyen is move approval of authorizing the mayor to order all needed building inspections as outlined in the letter of intent for purchase of the property at 301 East Main Street. Alderman Nguyen, is that your motion?
Yes, it is.
Do I hear a second? Second. Motion's been seconded by Alderman Little. Alderman Nguyen, do you wish to speak on the merits?
No, I do not.
Any discussion, any discussion, any discussion? Seeing none, please answer yea, nay, or abstain as the city clerk calls your name.
Alderman Carver.
Yay.
Alderman Nguyen.
Yay.
Alderman Little.
Yay.
Alderman Walker.
Yay.
Alderman Maynard.
Yay.
Alderman Perkins.
Nay.
Alderman Vaughn.
Nay.
By a vote of 5 in favor with 2 against, this measure passes. The next matter before you is
I'm sorry, I'd like to,
Alderman
if possible, I'd like to add one more motion while we're on this.
Okay.
I would like to add approval for city staff to investigate the annual operating cost, utilities, landscape, additional staffing, and custodial services of the Cadence property.
operational, what?
Operational
Have you
cost.
reduced the writing?
Well, sort of.
I just need the categories. All right, motion has been made by Alderman Walker to order the city staff to provide an appraisal for the operational cost of the building, including utilities, landscaping,
Insurance, what else?
insurance,
Additional staff.
additional staff, landscaping, and custodial services. Alderman Walker, is that your motion?
Yeah.
Hold on. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Little. Alderman Walker, do you wish to speak on the merits? Chief Administrative Officer.
Just a quick clarifying question, Alderman. That's based on current programming, correct?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I recognize.
You may.
There's a motion needed for that. I think, you directed the, in your role as Chief Administrative Officer of the city, directed the Chief Administrative Officer to perform and engage in certain things without the board authorization. I mean, that's something you can direct him to do in your day-to-day administration under the statute, to get that information to you, and y'all can just get that back to us.
Sure, I most certainly can, but from time to time, the board does like to make clear the action that it expects to see, and that's how I would interpret this motion. Further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, please answer yea, nay, or abstain as the city clerk calls your name on Alderman Walker's motion.
Alderman Carver.
Yay.
Alderman Nguyen.
Yay.
Alderman Little.
Yay.
Alderman Walker.
Yay.
Alderman Maynard.
Yay.
Alderman Perkins.
Nay.
Alderman Vaughn.
Nay.
By a vote of 5 in favor with 2 against, this measure passes. Is there any further discussion on that topic? Any further discussion? Seeing none, the next matter that we have before us is a very exciting matter. Actually, one of the most significant matters that this board will consider during this term. And let me just say, in introducing Joe Max Higgins and Joey Deason on behalf of the Link, I have said many times over the years that I believed our community would be ready to turn a corner when we could collectively get excited about doing something rather than just stopping something. And I think you have delivered that moment tonight. In my mind, that moment looks something like what I've seen tonight. We've got a major decision before us. One where the city is getting ready to invest $5 million. And there was a mob of people that showed up tonight, not to tell city leaders that they shouldn't do it, but to encourage them and to tell them that this is important to the future of our community. So, gentlemen, you have worked very, very hard over the last 18 months. I am extremely confident in the program that you're going to present tonight. Thank you. Thank you in advance of that for delivering that moment to our community. Gentlemen.
Thank you, Mayor and Board. I know you've been here a long time, and I'm gonna
gonna try to be as brief and cover what we're wanting to do as I can, and I think I'm gonna probably, Joey, I'm gonna turn this one this way where they can see. Joey is handing out handouts for the people in the crowd. We've got as many as he's got left, and maybe y'all can share those. I wanna tell you that, you know, we've been going through a pretty big journey here these last couple of weeks, months even. We've looked at a whole lot of things. We hired Bill Fruit to look at all three communities and say, what do we need to be doing in each community? We've signed contracts for long-term economic development. The counties approved the university concept and what I would say significant funding on that in the last several weeks. I mean, we met with the director of MDA today. He was here on another project, and we took this project, the community and the aerospace park, and we said, how many times have you seen communities around the state of Mississippi invest over $50 million of local money to facilitate and make things happen? And that's what the aerospace park, the community, and this park, those are over $50 million that would be invested. Mr. Fruth told us, I think he told the Clay County folks, take care of Yokohama, take care of Yokohama, take care of Yokohama, and oh, by the way, you gotta work on workforce. He told the Lowndes County folks, keep it in the ditch, keep developing the GTR area, and oh, by the way, you gotta work on workforce. What he told us for here was, you need to work on workforce, but you haven't got any product. You don't have any available industrial parks that can be developed. Cornerstone's got some limitations. Thad Cochran Park 1 and 2, not a lot of property there, the lots are small. And so he painted a picture that we have been working with our team since then to try to put together. He recommended a 500-acre park, fully developed, ready to go. Okay? So that's what we started out as an ideal. We started looking at what was available. When we first started working this project, when we signed the initial contract with y'all, we believed that the North Farm was going to be available for development right there at MSU. Okay? Electricity in close proximity, water there, sewer there. But as we worked through the process, we found out that was not available, and if it were going to be available, it was going to be available at a cost that we probably couldn't or wouldn't afford. The number was $20 to $30 million was thrown out on the table. Quite frankly, at that kind of dollar figure, we can do better. We looked at 16th section that the school owned over by the airport, south of the South Hangar building. We looked at the Shealy property on the highway. We looked at Cornerstone and what limitations it had and what we would have to do to be ready to develop it. And then we looked at this parcel. This parcel is located on the new Highway 25 on old 182 shown on that map. We brought in 5 people that we've worked with the Prairie Belt Power Site in Clay County, the Aerospace Park in Lowndes County. We brought in Neil Schaefer, civil engineers, and we literally spent days and weeks looking at the sites and evaluating and picked this site. Okay, we picked this site for a variety of reasons. Water and sewer in close proximity, not in the floodplain, in the city limits and obviously in the county and in the city limits. We liked the access that the new highway could give us, so we started working on that. Now, in a normal situation, we would do this project and we put this project together and we'd say, what do we need to do? Here we have some kind of handcuffs on us. And when I say some kind of handcuffs on us, both you and the county have approved $5 million each that you could spend on economic development projects brought to you by the link. So we had to start working this project understanding that we had a $10 million allowance. We can go over that, okay? Some people say, why didn't you buy more land? We had to find the perfect fit of money, of land that we could buy and infrastructure that we could do, operating in the budget that we knew that we had the allowance that we had to spend. So we had to manage that. Okay, so that was a big part of the process. Then we started looking at what types of businesses would we go for. Now, I don't mean to be disrespectful when I tell you this, okay? So please don't take to this and nobody get offended too badly. But I think Starkville has been sold over the years that let's get 10 jobs and pay $100,000. Let's get those guys that ride their skateboards to work in their board shorts and they pay real well, and let's get those be smart, think smart, all that smart deal. the fact of the matter is, of the 3 counties that we represent, there's a bigger percentage of people that live in poverty in our Kimball County than in West Point, Clay County, and in Columbus and Lowndes County. About 1 in 3. Okay, so what we've deduced is there is a dearth of, there needs to be more manufacturing jobs in this community. And we think that this park that we put together, we're going to be catering after and going after those types of industries that will pay somewhere between $35,000 and $45,000 a year. That's the target that we've snapshotted on there. We know we can't have rail because right now Starkville's limited on rail. I mean, you know, it's gone and probably gonna be hard to get it back. But what we also know is not all the industries use rail. So when we sit down with our team, we said, we're not looking for a 3-acre site. We're not looking for a small building where somebody can go in and do computer programming, although that's obviously an honorable job. What we want to do is we want to go after that advanced manufacturing. We want to decouple from the university. We don't have to go ask, Mother, may I? Mother, may I? Mother, may I? Mother, how much would this cost? We want to have a site that is owned and controlled by the community, okay? And in this particular case, we think that's OCEDA would be the most logical group to own the property. We would like to go after those types of companies. Now, we set aside, we said we think 20-acre plus or minus lots work. We think that probably works. We've cited a variety of buildings on there. That's not an absolute plot plan. It's not we're not bringing you a plat to approve tonight. That's a generality of what can happen there. The buildings are fairly large. There's one 25,000 square foot building on here. The largest is 160. And what we're trying to do is make use of all of the trees and all the things that are there to make it an aesthetically pleasing park. Aesthetically pleasing. Almost like an upscale residential subdivision. When you drive around, you see a house, you go around another curve, you see a house, and quite frankly, you can't see the houses from each other because there's trees and all kinds of stuff. That's the kind of park we see. But make no doubt, this is a manufacturing park. Make no doubt. Since Joey's been with us, we've applied for 4 German automotive component plants. The company that makes the Mercedes-Benz Star, the Audi Rings, and the VW, all those chrome pieces on a German car, they made it. The only site that we had to show was a 17-acre site that the airport authority owns by Clark Beverage. That was the best we could do. It wasn't good enough. That particular project went to Tuscaloosa. Okay, but those are the kinds of companies that I quite frankly think that we can recruit and attract to this park. Okay, so this gives you an overview of the park. Understand, we think we want OCEDA to own it. We think if you vote today, we told the supervisors this yesterday, we want to do a definitive memorandum of understanding outlining the city's responsibility, the link's responsibility, OCEDA's responsibility, and others, so that everybody has a roadmap of what will be done. So if you approve that this tonight, we'll be back before you, either at your next meeting or the next meeting, depending on how long it takes Chris and his peers to get a document that we feel good to bring before you. In addition to the park, and I want to point out, in a perfect world, if money were no object, we would have liked to have acquired this. Can you see this car? We would have liked to have acquired this property as well.
That's one of my questions. And the
Okay.
little sliver right there.
This we're actually working with TVA to do us a master plan of a retail development of that site. We think that's probably the best use of that. But somewhere where my hand is arbitrarily up, we would have liked to have purchased that. I think we've got some ideas on how we can long-term option that if our folks will work with us. The other thing that I'll point out is it's a 4-lane road to a point, and then it necks down, and it goes to a 2-lane road out. We would have preferred to have done a whole 4-lane road, okay? And we're talking with our engineers right now about how could we build this with plans, but when you start putting in sidewalks and stuff like that, you either gotta, it's kind of hard. You either gotta do it now or you're not gonna do it. Yes, sir.
Stop you now about the roads. Which one's the construction interest, the 2-lane or the 4-lane?
The,
How does that work?
we believe that the construction interest short-term would be here. I mean, you're gonna be building, I think you're gonna be building these buildings over the next 10, 15 years. I don't think you're gonna fill this park up like that. I think we'll all have a little more age on us by the time we do it, but we've envisioned that this would be the construction entrance because this is gonna have signage, it's gonna be pretty nice. And I don't think we want concrete trucks and stuff like that coming through. We think the majority, when it's built out and being built, we think the majority of the employees will come in here as well. So this entrance may actually get more use than the front door, if you really think about it. The park does have planned 4-lane road with the median divided and the sidewalks, some trees, some planting, some landscaping. And then it also, here's the typical of the 2-lane road with the sidewalks and the 2-lane road, and again, the trees and planting. We want this to be an aesthetically pleasing park, but we want it to be a manufacturing park. Now, this is a question, hopefully we'll give you a little bit better numbers or give you some numbers that you've been sinking on your past projects. Here's our budget that we're working on. Got a $10 million allowance, and guys, I could have made this be $10 million, and some of you ask, who's gonna pay that $64,000? Quite frankly, I'm not used to having to deal with who's gonna pay the $64,000. Usually, we've got big enough budgets, it doesn't matter, but we'll figure this out to $10 million. The land, here's your land purchase. We want to be totally transparent. The Josie property is 16 acres, and it's at $37,500 an acre. That's this parcel right here, these two parcels. Okay, the Ramsey property is at $20,000 an acre, and that's right here. The balance of it's a Stark property. If you add up all the acreage, all the costs, we come out with a blended average cost of $10,500 an acre. Okay? It kind of tickles me. That's more than we paid in Lowndes, $7,500 generally is the high. It's more than we paid in Clay, $8,500 on the 1,500 or the 1,500 acres we brought for Yokohama with $8,500 an acre. But I do get tickled with this a little bit. Because when we started doing this, people said, I don't think you're going to be able to find any deals in Starkville. Everybody wants to be in Starkville. I think $10,000 an acre for this location is a good price. Okay, good price. Let's talk about due diligence. We pride ourselves on never showing sites if we don't have some due diligence done on them. You lose your credibility with a consultant. You don't have your surveys, your endangered species, your Phase 1, your wetlands, your soil borings, your cultural resources. Most of the big companies like Deloitte, KPMG, and those guys won't even look at your site. They'll throw it away. So we think we're going to end up spending about $75,000. And we've done enough of these that we're in the ballpark there. We're close in the ballpark doing this due diligence. These are the items that'll have to be done first.
Joe, that includes using the city's Phase 1 money that they have as well?
Correct.
That $5,000 is just for the endangered?
Yeah, that may seem low to some of y'all that have done that. You got a grant that does Phase 1 audit, so we're going to use your grant to do that. The $5,000 is just for the endangered species. If we were paying for that, I think it'd be Sandra somewhere, 20 grand. You hear somewhere? Sandra? Okay, about 20 grand, I think would be that number. Now, then let's move on into the development. So we've got the acquisition, we got the due diligence costs. Some of these items I think we would do before we actually bought the land. Those are one, yes.
What about those first two property owners? Why is it different? Because it's closer to the bypass? Or?
Yeah, they value their properties as higher, and I think there's a justification there than the Stark property because a lot of the Stark property is off of the highway. I think that highway frontage is going to be more of a higher value. Now, before you can buy this, you understand you'll have to get an appraisal, and we'll have to get an appraisal that reflects the prices that we're paying. So that'll be an important step that we've got to do before you can buy that. You're going to have to do that, correct, Chris?
Correct.
Okay. Let's go on to the infrastructure cost. To do the roads, the signs, the lights, the sidewalks, and that's a catch-all. All that stuff that's associated with the roads. Rounded up about $4.9 million, 4.87 and change. This number, we asked the engineers, we said, we want you to be conservative, okay? Because we cannot get hung out there doing a project and you tell us it's gonna cost some number and it comes in a lot higher, all of us are exposed at a level none of us wanna be exposed to. None of us wanna have that talk, okay? So we asked them to be conservative in their budgeting, so point of, that you need to know, that $4.9 million includes a 20% contingency. In other words, there's a good amount of money there as a pad. A good amount of money there as a pad. The water and sewer work, they estimated 1.448, let's call it 1.5 for round numbers. It contains the same 20% contingency. So I think if, okay, and then the last thing is our bond cost, our issuance cost, and we got this from Buddy Mitchell. Okay, governmental consultants, they help all of us with our stuff. We called Buddy, said, here's what we're working on, we gave him the numbers, but this is a number that Buddy Mitchell and his team told us to plug for that cost, about $245,000 and change. So it's about a $10 million project. That's to buy the land, to run the water, to run the sewer, to build the roads, okay, to do all the due diligence where we're ready to market the site. And here's kind of how I think this works. We would, with your approval tonight, go back and start developing that MOU. It'll be, you'll sign it, the county will sign it, we'll sign it, undoubtedly OC will sign it, Starkville Electric may sign it. Different groups that are gonna be associated with doing this project, we will ask to sign it. It will give everybody's role and responsibility, kind of our roadmap. Once we get that done, and let's target, just for kicks and giggles, let's say we get that done by the end of August, we would want to start on this project after your new FY starts in October 1, okay? So when you start your new FY, when you do your budgeting this year, however you're gonna pay for your share, you would need to take that into consideration. You need to take that into consideration. Again, working with Buddy Mitchum, he said I could have the money available to you. We think the bond issue will probably be around October, November range. That will let us finish design, do the stuff, and as soon as the weather is permitting, we'll be able to get out there and work. I mean, getting after it. Now, it could fall to December or January, but there's somewhere in there's a range in your next FY that we expect this to happen. We think with a little bit of luck and good weather, by the end of summer, maybe early fall, we can be well on our way to having this available. Now, we don't have to have this finished to market this. Theoretically, after tonight, we can start marketing this property. Because most of the companies that would come, it takes about a year to build a house, 8 months to a year. It takes about a year to build a factory. So a smaller one, a big one will take about 2 years. But about a year. So we could start marketing this immediately. And certainly if somebody wanted to come, if all this stuff was in place, I don't think most companies would bat an eye of starting building as long as we were out there moving dirt, pushing dirt, plans and specs and all that stuff going. So we think we can start marketing this immediately, and we think we can have it finished by next year. A lot of talk about money. So you need to understand the money. We've budgeted or planned for 20-year term on this. Because we want to give you a comfort factor, we plugged in 5%. 5% at 20 years, and the share on that annually, that's 20 payments of about $400,000 a year. So this park would cost you about $400,000 a year to build, okay, over a 20-year period. Now, also understand, going into this, our recommendation. We have purchased 7,500 acres at the link in the last 11 years of the Golden Triangle. I think we have sold 9 acres. We've leased some, but the vast majority of this land has been gifted. It is assumed that we would buy this land, develop this park, market it to companies with the intention, if they come in and they're to our liking and we're to theirs, that we would gift them the property in return for the investments, the jobs, and payroll, and sign in an agreement of what their deliverable would be. You add that to the fact that at least right now, Starkville and Oktibbeha County are in the growth and prosperity zone, GAP zone. Y'all probably heard Joey talk about that. Those are more incentives that are available at the state level that would let companies come here and not pay income tax for 10 years state, franchise tax for 10 years state, and that they would be released from all of their state sales tax on their component building materials. Quite frankly, an incentive that's only provided to those special session projects like PACCAR, like Toyota, like Yokohama and others. Having said that, we think if we buy this site, we develop it, we gift it, and those companies have those kind of incentives on the table, we cannot guarantee you success. As a matter of fact, don't ever read into this that we're guaranteeing you even one win. But we believe, based on our track record and our history, that if we do this, we'll get more than our fair share of lookers, and with the things that we're offering and the things the community has, we'll get more than our fair share of takers. There's about 1,320,000 square feet on that map. That's arbitrary. It won't be less, it could be more. If you use 1,000 jobs per square feet, it's about 1,300 jobs. If you use 500 jobs per square, one job for 500 square feet, it's twice that. That's the number I would kind of have in my mind. Conservatively, I think it's a park that will create 1,300 jobs. It could be twice that number. Okay, so the question is to you tonight. The Board of Supervisors approved it yesterday morning. We're ready to go. Chris Pace, our legal counsel's worked with Mr. Latimer. You got a resolution in front of you. I would be happy to answer any questions. Joey can answer any questions. And if not, we would ask that you give consideration to passing the resolution.
Questions or comments from the members of the board for Mr. Higgins? Alderman Wynn.
Mr. Mack Higgins, thank you so much for your presentation. Will you speak to, as you explained yesterday, just for public information that is here, there are approximately 1,500 to 2,500 jobs that you've mentioned for this. Will you explain to the public that formula that you use to calculate that?
Yes, ma'am. In my training as a certified economic developer, the textbooks say that manufacturing would employ, back in the day, one job for every 500 square feet of building. One job for every 500 square feet of building. Warehousing, when I was trained, they said would be one job for every 1,000 square feet. Okay, so that's kind of the formula. Let me give you some real examples. Yokohama is going to work 500 people in 1 million square feet. PACCAR works 500 people in 500,000 square feet. Eurocopter works almost 400 people in about 400,000 square feet. So there's no hard and fast rule. But I think if y'all were to assume for every 1,000 square feet of building that would be built out there, private sector funded, all that stuff, that you could assume at least one job for every 1,000 feet, I think you would be safe. I think you would be safe.
Okay. Mr. Mayor, I want to read something to the public, if I may. And this number 5 on the resolution, as I read this the other day. Based upon the advice and recommendations of the Link and the Policon report, the municipality currently lacks adequate shovel-ready sites capable of attracting desirable industrial and manufacturing-based enterprises, and the existing Cornerstone Park located south of the Mississippi Highway 25 and Mississippi Highway 12 bypass currently lacks the electrical capacity to adequately support such new enterprises. So in other words, we don't have anything in the event that a factory wants to come, a manufacturing facility wants to come at this time.
That's correct.
That's shovel-ready.
Since we've represented y'all, we've shown Cornerstone several times and just no lookers because of the capacity. You had a vacant lot at Thad Cochran Park, okay, C-Spire's now on that lot. You've got some vacant property in Thad Cochran 2, I think you're about 45 acres.
Yes.
Okay, you had one, what we consider to be vacant industrial building, and that was the South Hangar, and it's now occupied by the file folder folks. The other towns that we represent have abundance of vacant buildings. Johnson Electric, the old Nova, now Sanderson Plumbing, the Freezer in West Point, Flexible Flyer, Blazon Tube, they just go on and on and on. Literally millions of square feet of vacant buildings. You have none. As far as the lots we have, right now, the only loan marketable lot that we have is at 17 acres there by Clark Beverage, right across the street from the hospital, what some of y'all refer to as the old soccer, what y'all refer to as the old soccer fields. Hopefully you'll know where that is. Yeah, you lack product, Ms. Wynn, and we need to fix that.
One more and I'll leave you alone.
Look, I've been here 2 hours, I'll stay as long as you want. 2.5, man.
Will you speak to the power usage that it will require?
Yeah, here, and Mr. Kent may have a different opinion, Fort County may have a different opinion. Here's what I want everybody to understand. These ultra-huge projects, like Yokohama, like Severstal, those guys are hogs. They are hogs of utilities. Severstal uses 360 megawatts of power. 360. Yokohama will use about 45. PACCAR uses 16. Okay? One of the criteria when we started looking at this park is we knew about Cornerstone and the lack of substantial power being there. We also looked at West Point and Columbus. In Columbus, I'm going to say at GTR, we could probably on a good day do 300 megs. Still, 300 megawatts. I think on a good day, we could probably beat that at West Point because the substation's there. Here on a good day, I think right now there's some things in the works. I think Carl had a thing in the paper. But on a good day here, I think between Fort County, and they're basically somewhere a line about there is Fort County, and this is Starkville Electric. Between the two, Fort County's probably around 2. Starkville Electric probably tier about 10. You're serious, about 10. So about 12 megawatts. Now, if you're saying, well, that's no Severstal, correct. If you're saying that's no PACCAR, correct. But that's probably close to 6 Eurocopters. Okay, so you're not out of business in the least. I mean, you've got the ability to locate up to 6 companies like that. Now, Starkville Electric and Fort County, I think, again, if you'll go back and talk to that newspaper article, I think there's some improvements that are going to be made in the short term that's going to correct that for Cornerstone. There's going to be some time, and this park as well. I think there's a very good chance in a very short period of time, a few years, we're going to have Cornerstone that we can market, and we're going to have some additional, fairly substantial power here. Good answer.
Thank you so much.
Alderman Carp. This is the first time you've seen me do this. Most of the time I just write all these through the week as I have thoughts, and then if you want to sit down, this is going to take about 10 minutes. These are just random. All right, so this is thoughts, suggestions, anything you want to call it.
All right.
First thing I don't like about this game is in this line of business, I wish Joey could give me, like, he can't, in this line of business, he can't tell me, we got 3 things waiting. He likes to call them Project X's and things like that. But, I wish, so you're saying at this point, on the record, best you can say, there's nothing in the works.
Nothing in the works.
So it's all a risk.
Go with that assumption. You're rolling the bones.
Okay.
$400,000 a year on the company.
Some of the things I've heard from people that spread the tax base, that's true, as long as more individuals move within the city limits. As if this passes tonight, we have to realize that not all these people will live inside the city limits. I think in the city of Starkville, though, there's a lot of development happening. I think this may be, and I got Ward 1, which is kind of middle income. This is the people that would benefit from this. High school educated, junior college educated.
And it's a safe, I'll kind of pop these every so often if I can. It's a safe bet that they won't all live in Oktibbeha County. Here's what we know, and it's increasing. At GTR, it used to be about 50 and 25% Lowndes and Oktibbeha. Raj is telling us that those numbers are moving closer to closer, that I think we're probably getting closer to about 35 and 35 or 30 and 30. So it's a safe bet that some people that work here may be from Louisville or may be from, Choctaw, somewhere west of here. So not everybody will live here, and not everybody will live in the county either. You're going to have some people that'll drive in and work at this place.
But, and that's an important point, but it's also important to understand, you're gonna have capital investment inside the city limits. It's not just the people, this is the investment that's gonna roll off and create tax revenue for this city in the future.
And that's a good one to touch on. What would you anticipate is the average capital investment of one of these projects?
Well, what was bought, $25 or $30 million?
It was 50 million.
With equipment and everything. So can you do them a math, do them a math question real quick, $50 million.
$50 million, Taylor.
50 million and
I'm sorry, I wouldn't pay.
Taylor, 50 million, what kind of revenue?
You got a calculator, I'll tell you how to do it real quick.
I was asking the mayor a question, I'm
That's
sorry.
okay, somebody got a calculator, I'll do it for you real quick.
What, how many square feet?
No, I'm just
50 million.
saying,
What kind of
$50 million,
investment.
$50 million times 15%. You just want city millage,
15.
Just said, so.
okay, times 0.020.
2198.
We need those, man.
165.
How much?
165.
Okay, so on that Baldwin project, the city share, after the 10-year exemption, make sure everybody understands, there's no misleading here, after the 10-year exemption would be what?
165.
165. You wanna do the school millage on that?
Yep.
Anybody wanna know that number?
Yes.
Okay, take the same
It's
50.
450 to
It's gonna be
475.
400.
Okay,
400?
400,000
That's
plus.
correct. That would be immediate
Yeah,
as soon as.
and that, there would be no exemption on that. That would be, as soon as they were finished, the first available year, they'd be placed on the tax roll, and they'd start paying school taxes.
These numbers seem almost foreign to us because we've never had large-scale industrial capital investment like that before. We talk about development in terms of houses and strip malls. This is a different class altogether.
Yeah, and,
Joe,
and- and- go ahead.
what you're saying is that one project example would get the schools back the same amount of money that we're paying out for the whole project right now, that 400,000 a year.
Correct. That's correct.
How much rolled on to the Lowndes County tax roll?
Look, this year, we've been doing this 11 years. And every year it goes up. Last year, it was about $10 million went to Lowndes County, okay? This year, it was $13 million to Lowndes County. The schools got $15 million on deals we did. Now, I don't want to miss, but let me tell you, it's real, okay? But don't let me mislead you. Those were several, probably more fee and lieu projects been done in Lowndes County in the last 11 years than has been done in Mississippi the last 11 years. You understand that? There's been like 8, okay? And we're fixing to pop another one, I think. Okay, so, it's one of these deals. How many of y'all got a rich friend? Mr. Perkins, I know you got a rich friend.
I know
Okay.
them. Yeah, I know them.
I know him, okay?
Perkins is my rich friend.
Well, that's okay. Everybody's got a rich friend, and it always seems like that rich friend always makes more money. Well, when you got money, you can roll. He's still on his question.
To put it into perspective, back to the housing, the way that you tried to create revenue, you'd have to build 250 $200,000 houses in the city to equal about a $50 million investment.
All right, Mr. Carver.
I like to do this in open meeting, so there's no.
Had to go on, man.
All right. There's been a lot of surprise, it's a lot of surprise to me that the most, I probably had 2 people against this and all of the calls. It's probably one of the most, as many calls I've ever had on this issue. Very surprising to me that people that pay a lot of taxes are in favor of this, and I think that's maybe because they're business owners, and I think that they honestly see some financial benefit from this long term, but that comes with growth.
Editorialize. I think they see a benefit to their business, and I think it's what Mr. Langston said earlier. I think they see if it doesn't happen, their small businesses and homes are gonna continue to have to pay a bigger percentage of the burden.
That's right.
Yeah.
And that was part of that.
You might say they're for it for selfish reasons, but it's not, but it's really not. It's kinda like they like to have somebody else help share the cost.
And it was surprising to me because some folks in this room are paying substantially, definitely more taxes than myself, but they're willing to take that investment.
Correct.
So, somebody said there's immediate relief. There's not any immediate relief because there's no projected, there's projected project. Just to get that straight, it's just speculated. One thing I like to do is, as an elected official, I got to represent my constituents. So has anybody said any kind, we're looking at $400,000 a year for 20 years. Has anybody broken down, we've done this before with projects, for a $100,000 house kind of individual, and then $300,000, what their taxes would increase each year?
It's approximately 2 mills.
So what per 100, fee on a $100,000 house?
Per $100,000 house, that's $200 a year,
$20.
right? Or is it $20?
$20.98.
$20 a year.
$20 a year for each meal?
Y'all sure you're not missing a zero there?
That's one, it's 2 mills.
You're talking $40 if you own a $100,000 house, and triple that if you own a $300,000 house? Is that pretty good in the math? Okay, for the record. A lot of talk has been about the power grid and Cornerstone, and why not just go down to Cornerstone? Has the talks been made with TVA? If we could do that at Cornerstone, if TVA is willing to roll out with this, why not just go right down the road? And
We met with Fort County and TVA on numerous
Fort
meetings.
County,
No, it's okay, it's okay. We've got a letter in the file from Joe Kay that says he thinks by 2017, he could have the power at Cornerstone. The power's not the only issue with Cornerstone, as we see it. The streets are elevated, the lots are low, pine trees are planted on them, and I know that's to generate revenue, I understand that. It shows extremely poorly. But we asked the question in the early days, if Starkville could wait until 2017, if you could wait until 2017, you would have power available at Cornerstone, okay? If you can wait until 2017. That's your decision to make, okay? I would think about that kind of long and hard. I think we can get you in the game quicker on this one. Then when Cornerstone becomes available, everybody said, what is Cornerstone gonna be? I think Cornerstone is gonna be our shade and shelter industrial park.
We've heard that term. Kind of
Yeah,
explain that.
the term is this, and my friends at Gulf States and my friends at Seco said, well, I don't like that. Metal building, big metal building, keep the sun off of you, the rain off of you, keep the wind from blowing, shade and shelter to manufacture. You're not so much concerned about the facade, you're not much concerned about the architectural appeal. You just need a 50,000 square foot warehouse or a 100,000 square foot manufacturing plant. That's what we would put at Cornerstone. Here, while we would be amenable to metal buildings, we would want them to have a visually pleasing facade. Something like Stark Aerospace at the airport, if y'all have ever gone to see that. Something like Eurocopter, those are all metal buildings. They're metal on the back, they're metal on the sides, but they look nice from the front. There's some architectural, and we would see that those buildings, we're not looking to put a shade and shelter in here. We're looking to put something very quality that'll be here for a long time.
the last thing is, I know you probably don't follow our politics, but, you know.
Hey, listen, 2 weeks ago, Carl here? Yeah, I got on Twitter a few years ago because I wanted to follow my daughter, and then found out that I was dropping crumbs on her friends' sites, and she came in and sat in my ottoman and took my iPad away. And she said, Daddy, what would you do if a 50-something-year-old man was looking at my Twitter? I handed her my iPod and said, I want it back. Take it off. Okay? 2 weeks ago, I signed up for a Twitter account so I could follow what was going on, so I started a couple weeks ago.
Well, what I gotta look at with my constituents, I did not vote against it, but you have to understand that we got a municipal complex that's coming on, 600,000 some odd years. How we're gonna fund this? Well, these both roll on almost identical for the same 20-year period. Had we not had the municipal complex, this would be a lot easier to stomach. So these two together, you know, you have to understand on a $16 million budget. That's a lot, and then the municipal complex, police station, you've heard the talks tonight in your 2.5 hours. You know, those are three things that are big for this town, are big budget items.
Absolutely, and if you got a small tax base, it's made even harder to decide. You know, Mayor's heard me say this, and I think some of y'all have too. This is an expensive business. You know, it costs money. You know, you can't run an organization without money. You can't develop sites without money. You can't build roads and projects without money. So it's an expensive deal, and we understand that. The rewards are great when you win. The rewards are great, but make no mistake, you are rolling the bones. This is a chance at having the ability to win.
I'm going to share something with you all. Last week, a friend girl of mine called me, and I thought it was the most interesting conversation because she is such a not political person. But now that I'm her friend and I serve on the board, it's like I've gotten a couple of my friends and family members and some more people all interested in our city government. So she called me the other morning and she was telling me about this project. And I was just shocked at what she said. She said, you know what? And she does not live in my ward. She said, I only pay $672 in taxes. This is not going to hurt me. And for the neighborhood and where I live, we're the people that need it, my children and grandchildren, because they are blue-collar jobs. And I thought that that was so profound, because at the end of the day, everyone doesn't choose to go to college and educate themselves. And for me, I'll go on record and say, I think that this is a win-win for our community.
No pun intended.
No point intended. Mr. Mayor, I'm getting exhausted. I would like to make a motion. The vice mayor is out. Can we get him?
Sure. Mr. Adams, can you see if he's in the hall? And for clarification, while we're waiting, yeah, Mr. Little and Mr. Adams were right. But it's $20.
20,
Two mills is $20 per 100,000. So you can scale that up. If you have a $200,000 home, be $40. Have a $300,000 home.
Wait, but
be-
this would be a 2 mil tax increase?
Yeah.
It'll be 40
So it'll be-
instead of 20.
Approximately. It's going to be very close to 2 mills. We don't know the exact value of a mill until we get it from the tax assessor's office next year, but it's going to be very close to 2
Around
mills.
200 right now for a meal?
Yeah,
What
that's
is it,
right.
216?
No, it's not that high.
210.
So, as long as that holds, probably a little less than 2 mills would be the math.
yes, go ahead.
I appreciate you being patient with us, being patient with the city of Starkville. I think we are hopeful that our trust in the link is going to bring big results. We've met a few times, and initially I had some reservations about this project. But when I look in the bigger picture, I think that if we want to call it rolling the bones or having product to sell, I think that outweighs the reservations that I have. Now, is it a big decision that we have to make tonight? Yes, it is. The one question that I don't think we've really addressed is we are rolling the dice, but what we're rolling the dice on is not this project. We're rolling the dice on you guys. All right? And what I come back to is your track record and your ability to get people to come to nowhere, Mississippi, and develop. I think that's what I'm hanging my hat on when I make my decision. Having said that, if we are up and running in 18 months to 2 years with this project, what do we look at? What's our metric? What do we need to metric and say in 3 years out from this, what should we be looking for? Is it 100,000 square feet of development, or is it 200 jobs? What do we need to look to say, how are we going down the track to say, are we having a successful project?
Ms. Sproul asked me that before the meeting was started, and
She's a smart lady.
And I answered kind of off the cuff, but I think I'll stick with it. I said if we were lucky enough to announce 200 jobs in this park every other year, and you're gonna say, well, that's not very much. I understand that. Guys, this is harder than it looks. It's harder than you think it probably is. But I think if we were to have as a goal the creation of you maybe say 300, but 200, 250 people every 2 years, I think that would be a reasonable goal. Now, I promised myself that I wouldn't do this, because at West Point, I was in a group with them when we first started talking, and I said, I think there's a reasonable chance that you can land a fee and lieu project over $100 million within 3 years. I think it's a reasonable expectation. And everybody hung their hat that was the gospel. Thank God Yokohama came, okay? But I want to make sure that we understand. I think that's a reasonable expectation. It may or may not happen. Now, I want to tell you another West Point story. Mayor Scott Ross was mayor when we did this deal. This was when he signed the contract. He said, Joe, we're signing a contract with you for $350,000 for 3 years. That's over $1 million. He said, this is a hard decision for us to make. I said, Mayor, let me tell you something. It's a harder decision to be the guy saying he'll walk on water and get you success and taking the $1 million than it is the guy that's giving the $1 million. And he said, I think you're right. There's a tremendous amount of pressure on us. I told Joey this week, I said, we do this park, they vote for this, 3 years we don't have anybody there. I said, our asses are going to be kicked out of town. He said, you're right. Okay? We fully understand that. We fully understand that there is an expectation of success, and that's what you're buying. Okay? And we understand that our reputation is kind of like a football coach. Okay? We're only, right now Mullen's up here, right? Lose to Southern Miss that first game.
We're not going to do that.
I understand, but what I'm saying is, it's that fleeting. It's that fleeting. So Yeah, we're on the top of the heap now. 3 years, we don't get somebody in here, we know we got trouble. You won't have to tell us that, we'll know that.
Alderman Webb. Alderman Little, would you like to speak first?
Yes. First, I'd like to thank everybody for showing up tonight and sticking us out for the last 3 hours. We had a good show of force from Ward 3, and I appreciate that. I've had nothing but positive feedback from all the calls, with the exception of 2. They're not from Ward 3. But everyone's been overwhelmingly positive and supportive of this project, and I believe it's definitely something we need to do. It's going to be pay dividends down the road. It's going to be some risk, but when we get in the car every day, there's some risk involved there. I based, like Alderman Walker said a moment ago, based on your track record, I'm confident that you guys can deliver and will deliver. And I feel like we're at a crossroads as to which path we should take. Should we sit back here and scratch our heads, why is Lowndes County getting everything as we've done in the past? Or do we try this other path and go that direction and reap the benefits? And I think that's the way we need to go.
Alderman Wynn.
One thing before I make my motion. I saw you a couple of weeks ago at Harvey's. Not Harvey's, I'm sorry. It was Veranda we went. One of my favorite spots. One of my favorite spots. Tell him, Mr. Hilton, you saw me there a couple of weeks ago. And I kept my promise that I would do my homework and learn all about this, and I did. Okay, Mr. Mayor, having said that, I'm ready. Okay. Move approval of a resolution declaring the intention of the mayor and board of aldermen of the city of Starkville, Mississippi to support the financing, development, and operation of an industrial park and related matters.
All right, motion has been read, it's been reduced to writing, and Alderman Wynn will pass it forward. Without objection, I'm not going to ask for it to be reread as it's already been read. Seeing none, do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion's been seconded by Alderman Little. Alderman Wynn, do you wish to speak on the matter?
I have one little short note. It's paramount to our community that we embrace economic development. I believe in our city, and it's important that we set the tone for our city in a manner that supports economic development. The Innovation District is the green light. This project will immediately pay school taxes, provide retail strength, manufacturing job opportunities, and increase our tax base in years to come. I'm looking forward to good things. And let me say this, someone wrote me a letter, and they said that you were putting your name on the line. And this is what I say, if you don't produce, I'm gonna put it on the highway for you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Alderman Carter.
You know, as long as you feel good with those numbers as far as, I guess, 20 for every meal. That's both meals together, $20 a year.
That's it.
You know, I'll pay that. It's your track record that gets my vote, nothing else. With that, some cost savings. Some of those first two, you know, once these properties get appraised and they come in, the first one's $37.5 an acre and it comes in for 20, do we pay the 20 or $37.5?
Well, you can't, the property's under option for $37.5. The owner said, I'll sell it for $37.5. If the appraisal comes in at 20, you'll have an option. You can go to them and say, will you sell it for 20? I think their answer will be no, and we'll have to go back to square one. We've talked to some appraisers, and they don't see any big time issues with any of these costs. They think they can, we haven't hired them, we just talked to them and said, you know, we try to do a lot of stuff before we bring it out public because we don't want to be embarrassed, but I said, is that too high of a number? Now, there's some things here that, Joey, we're buying 6 acres. He's gifting us 10 on Josie.
Yes.
Okay? The total cost is $600,000. So, Chris, we'll be working that out, and you understand why he's doing that. If he sells it, a small portion for 6, he sets the comp on it because he's got land across the street. Our issue is, that's what we're paying for the site. Okay? And that's what we're paying per acre. But we've got to work out, how that works and looks in the documents. Actually getting 10 acres free, but we're paying a premium price for 6.
Second question I got, and while I got you here, just, I don't know the answer, excuse my ignorance on the subject, but when they start upping this megawattage and they do it at Cornerstone and thing, is that any kind of additional expense that we need to be expecting, or is that the city take on, or does it Starkville Electric and Ford County pay for all that?
I think, Ford County's not here, but I'm going to refer to Mr. Kemp, and I think this, whatever Mr. Kemp gives is probably the same for Ford County. And neither one of you and I can speak for county, but would that be a fair assumption?
Thank you.
Previous life, you knew that, right?
Further discussion? Alderman Vaughn.
Joe Max, this is my second term meeting with you. Joe Decent, you know, when you came on board, it was one of the things I discussed. I want the audience to know one thing. Faith does not make things easy. Faith make them possible. All they can bring to us, we still got to have faith and believe that this is possible and that this can happen. I mean, we still got to pray to make sure that this happens, because prayers make things happen. And thank you so much, because I've been with you a little while.
Mayor, I'm gonna say this, and I think I need to, and I'm not trying to sway anybody's vote. I just don't think you all understand what opportunities you have here. I'm not just talking about this park, okay? I really don't think you understand. With the school here, if we'll get together with this park, we're working retail stuff now, some substantial retail stuff that's not on the radar screen yet. You guys have got a real opportunity, okay? We're what, the 10th largest city in the,
No, about 15.
15th largest city. With a little bit of luck, you could be a 10th largest city in Mississippi easily enough. You could get in that spot, you could stay in that spot. I look at you, as a coach, would look at a kid that's coming up playing ball, just got a tremendous amount of potential. And I think by taking some of these steps, we quit talking about you having potential, and we can talk about you being somebody, being a player. So, we're looking forward to this, if we get the affirmative vote.
Further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, please answer yay, nay, or abstain as the city clerk calls your name.
Alderman Carver.
Yay.
Alderman Nguyen.
Yay.
Alderman Little.
Yay.
Alderman Walker.
Yay.
Alderman Maynard.
Yay.
Alderman Perkins.
Nay.
Alderman Vaughn.
Yay.
By a vote of 6 in favor with 1 against, this measure passes. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, board. Thank you, community.
Everybody's been working hard.
Good to see you. Good job. Work hard to change that perception that we can't.
Mr. Mayor, can we have a quick recess?
Yes, without objection, we'll move into brief recess. Yeah.
Good luck.
You know, when they said public comments, I was going to get up. I'm all for it.
You ain't gotta have him.
She's not gonna get to handle it herself. Meeting will now come back to order. Next matter you have before you is consideration of adoption of the landscape ordinance as revised by the community development staff. Discussion.
So moves.
Motion has been made by Alderman Maynard to adopt the landscape ordinance as revised by the community development staff as presented. Alderman Maynard, is that your motion?
It is.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Vaughn. Alderman Maynard, do you wish to speak on the merits?
No.
Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Measure clearly passes. Next matter on the agenda is a consideration for calling for public hearings to amend Chapter 18 of Starkville's Code of Ordinances to provide for stricter laws and enforcement against animals at the cemetery.
May I be recognized?
You may.
So move.
Move approval to schedule a public hearing on August 19th, 2014, the next meeting to amend Chapter 18 of the Starkville Code of Ordinances to provide stricter laws and enforcement penalties against individuals allowing their dog to defecate in the cemetery, in any cemetery within the city limits. I've reduced that to writing.
The animal defecation public hearing.
That's it.
Motion has been made, it's been reduced to writing, and without objection, I'll not ask for it to be reread. Any objection? Seeing none, do I hear for a second?
Second.
Second has been made by Alderman Nguyen. Alderman Maynard, do you wish to speak on the merits?
No, sir.
Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Measure clearly passes. Next matter on the agenda is consideration of approval of the proposed 2% budget for fiscal year 2015 from MSU.
So moved.
Motion has been made by Alderman Little to approve of the 2% budget as presented by the MSU Student Association. Alderman Little, such a motion?
It is.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Walker. Alderman Little, do you wish to speak on the merits?
No, sir.
Any discussion, any discussion, any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Measure clearly passes. The next matter you have on your agenda is a request for approval for a special events permit from the Mississippi State University Student Association for in-kind services for 2014 Bulldog Bash. Alderman Maynard.
Recommend approval.
Motion has been made by Alderman Maynard to approve of a special events permit for Mississippi State University Student Association for in-kind services for 2014 Bulldog Bash. Alderman Maynard, is that your motion?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Walker. Alderman Maynard, do you wish to speak on the merits?
No.
And I see the city attorney, do you have a comment?
I do. I just want to put on the record, Mr. Sanders, in looking at the materials, the insurance for that event has not yet been provided by Mississippi State or the Student Association, correct?
That is correct.
And is that because they wait to get insurance closer to the event to lock in a rate?
Correct. As in last year, when they were trying to work towards the 60-day, it was going to be extremely expensive and risky because if there was a change prior to that 60-day period, then a new policy would have to be issued.
Hands are being risen over there.
Ms. Craven, do you want to address?
We've actually gone ahead and applied for insurance, we're just waiting for the paperwork.
But you haven't gotten the certificate in hand yet?
Certificate's not in, it's in the process.
Okay. So I would just recommend that the board move approval conditioned upon the city being provided insurance consistent with the insurance requirements in the special event permit of the city. If that's a friendly acceptance.
That's acceptable.
Without objection? All right, seeing none, the motion has been so amended. Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by saying nay.
Nay.
By a vote of 6 in favor with 1 against, this measure passes. The next matter on the agenda is a request for approval of a special event permit for the Sturgis Motorcycle Rally.
So moved.
Motion has been made by Alderman Little to approve of a special events permit and in-kind services for the Sturgis Motorcycle Rally and Ride. Alderman Little, is that your motion?
It is.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Nguyen. Alderman Little, do you wish to speak on the merits?
No, sir.
Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by saying nay.
Nay.
By a vote of 6 in favor with 1 against, this measure passes. The next matter on the agenda is a request for approval of the claims docket.
Oh, no, we have,
I'm sorry. Consideration of the appeal of the Planning and Zoning Commission denial of conditional use 14-02 by Deborah Williams. Mr. Sanders?
The appeal of the denial of conditional use 14-2 is before the board for decision. On July the 8th, the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended denial of a conditional use to allow a mobile home at 317 Apple Street. Ms. Williams lost her home to a fire and desires to place a mobile home there to live in. The mobile home meets lot and zoning requirements as far as setbacks and lot square footage. The reason for that the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended denial was they felt that the trailer, the mobile home would not fit into the character of the street.
Before we have board discussion, Ms. Williams, do you wish to be heard?
I have wrote a letter to the board.
Okay. So you have the right to be heard if you wish to be heard by the board, but if you want to rest on.
The reason why I'm asking this is because, my income is gonna be cut in half. And this is, really about what would fit into my budget. And, the mobile home, it is I got pictures of it.
Can I see
It's a
that?
Yes, sir. I didn't wanna just, I wouldn't bring just anything up there, and I would go by the, whatever rules that, applied for me putting it there. And then I had other plans for, doing.
Alderman Nguyen.
Well, I'll have a motion after this.
And, I'm disabled, I've been, drawing disability since '99, and I have a disabled son too. So, he's about to go to college, but the income is gonna change, and that's about all I can afford.
Alderman Vaughn.
How long you been out?
I've been out since March 21st. I moved 3 times since then.
How many kids you have?
I have my son that I'm dependent on, dependent on me.
Have you discussed this with your neighborhoods, with your neighbors?
Yes, sir, they all know. The ones I talk to don't have a problem with it.
Mayor.
Alderman Carver.
What was the address, Mr. Sanders?
317 Apple Street.
What exactly, what are the other close proximity houses? Is it houses on both sides? Is it mobile homes, or what kind of makeup is it? I'm not clear. Where is it?
Single-family homes.
Where's that at?
Apple Street.
It's my ward.
In
It's,
the middle?
It's about somewhat south of the water tank, north of town, north of, over by the sanitation department.
And you Runs said- parallel to that road that runs up by the hill and Ward. Oh, okay.
Dead end.
Would you say the character of the neighborhood now is houses, or is it mobile homes, or is it,
It's single-family homes.
is there any mobile homes on that street?
Not on the street, no, sir.
Let me ask you this, if I may be recognized, I'm sorry. Ms. Williams, are there any dilapidated homes in your neighborhood?
Yes, it's 2 or 3 of them. And my mobile home is valued more than several houses on that street.
I had an opportunity to read your letter, and I hope that tonight that you and your family can get some closure, because you've moved, what, a total of 3 times?
3 times.
And
And I mean, it's killing me too, because I'm paying $565 where I'm in now.
Mr. Mayor, I have a motion. If, no,
Let's,
Mr.
I've got Walker, then
No,
Vaughn.
Okay.
Alderman Walker.
Mr. Sanders, this is a question for you. This property is currently zoned R5, is that correct?
That is correct.
Is a manufactured home part of, can it be a conditional use in an R5 zone per the chart of permitted uses?
Yes, sir.
Alderman Vaughn.
The houses where she lived, her mobile home probably value more than some of the houses where we trying to go. And this is in my ward, and some dilapidated houses there need to be removed. And I just wish the board would go along with me, because we have placed we made provision for others on South Jackson, we made provision for over at Summer Tree, and I just wish the board would, grant her this here, so that her and her family can put their life back together instead of keep moving back and forth, and find a stable home for her and her family.
Would you like to make the motion, or would you like Alderman Nguyen to
She
make
got
the
it
motion?
made. She got one.
Okay.
Carver got a question.
I have one question for Ms. Williams. I know you'll be biased because it's your residence, but Alderman Vaughn, have you talked to the neighbors over there and get any kind of general consensus on how they feel?
I know all of them well. And
Yeah.
I hadn't got no feed, none from back. I think Buddy said something. You said you got something from one.
With regards to the appeal, I received 2 communications. One from a lady on the street that stated that she was in favor of the mobile home being placed, and the other from a business owner on the other side of the western property lines, just asking questions.
But no negative feedback from no one.
Everybody seems to be in favor of it.
Yeah, I'm in the area all the time. They want her to get her life back together.
I'm
Alderman
gonna
Nguyen.
say this before I make your motion. Miss Pat Johnson told me to tell you that she missed your mouth in the neighborhood.
Everybody's saying they get something over there.
Okay, I have a motion. Move approval for conditional use, case CU 14-02 for Deborah Williams.
Does it have conditions?
Lady, were there conditions attached to the original conditional use?
Yes.
All right, motion has been made by Alderman Nguyen to approve of P&Z, excuse me, planning and zoning conditional use case CU-1402 with conditions as recommended by staff and as presented. Alderman Nguyen, is that your motion?
Yes, it is.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Vaughn. Alderman Nguyen, do you wish to speak on the merits? Any discussion, any discussion, any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by saying nay.
Nay.
Let's do it by show of hands. All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. All those opposed, please signify by raising your hand. By a vote of 5 in favor with 2 against, this measure passes.
Thank you.
Good
Thank
luck
you.
to you and your family, Ms. Williams.
Thank you.
The next matter before you is a request for approval.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. The next matter you have before you is a request for approval of the City of Starkville claims docket for all departments. The motion has been made by Alderman Little to approve of the City of Starkville claims docket for all departments, including the Starkville Electric Department, as of August 1st, 2014, for fiscal year ending September 30th, 2014, as presented. Alderman Little, is that your motion? Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Walker. Alderman Little, do you wish to speak on the merits?
No, sir.
Any discussion, any discussion, any discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by saying nay.
Nay.
By a vote of 6 in favor with 1 against, this measure passes. The next matter on the agenda, did we put sanitation with 1.5 mil okay. All right, that will conclude the open session business scheduled for this evening. The board does have potential matters for executive session consideration before them. Do I hear a motion to go into closed session to determine? Motion has been made by Alderman Vaughn to go into closed session to determine whether there is a need for an executive session. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Maynard. Alderman Vaughn, do you wish to speak on the merits?
No, sir.
Any discussion, any discussion, any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Measure clearly passes. I'll now ask everybody to clear the room so the board can begin closed.